across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
What do you expect me to say? I mean, seriously. I mean, what am I supposed to say? Sure as night follows damn day. Sure as it rains. Sure as we're so... Oh, God. Good morning. I know. I can't listen to anybody. I've only been awake since 2 a.m. and all I hear so far are the following phrases which are banned. Oh, we were too defensive. Of course we were. We were that far back from the Argentinian goal. We could have been back in bloody England. Didn't the lads do well to cut... No, they didn't. No, they didn't. I don't want to talk about the banner that said about the Falklands, because actually they beat us and we're not in the World Cup final. And I promised myself before this World Cup that I would not fall into that trap that I fall in all the time. Which is, I'm not getting involved. Oh, God, I am involved. And now I'm going to live it and breathe it. And just to share the story with you all, just to make you understand that for once I'm absolutely knackered and completely and utterly devoid of any enthusiasm. That's not about you, Alarm Clock Brits. It's just about how I feel. I thought I'll watch the game at 10 o'clock. I've got to get up at 2, so that's 4 hours sleep. My 17-year-old then rings me at 10 past 10 and says, I can't get a cab, Dad. Can you come and get me? Brilliant. So now it's 11:15, so I get into bed. Thinking, right, that's 3 hours, you know what happens to do it. And then my 22-year-old phones me from her new flat in Edinburgh where the fire alarm is going off and she can't reach the thing to knock it off the ceiling because the chair and the mop that I suggested was not long enough. What the hell do you want me to do from 400 miles? So I don't go to sleep till 12 o'clock and then I wake up even more bloody angry than I was before I went to sleep. So I'm just going to have a bit of fun this morning. We'll talk, no doubt, about the hopes of a nation dashed, or maybe an overpaid German technician or tactician who didn't really work out the fact that it would be a very good idea if you perhaps tried to attack their goal when you go 1-0 up. You see, I'm starting to rant. Everything, it seems, is broken. On the day that Kia... I mean, the only thing that saves me this morning... In fact, the first thing I thought last night was, at least because we've lost, that outgoing Prime Minister will not be using our taxpayers' money to go to New York and watch the World Cup final with his children at the weekend. And then I thought to myself, it's his fault. Do you remember what he said? It's coming home. He put a curse on it. He put a curse... listen, anyway, it's all over now, isn't it? No, it's not all over. It's absolutely central to everybody this morning. All of you lot getting up or coming back from the night shift. Oh, my God. Of course we want to hear from you, but... This is also important. I have this feeling that we're crap at everything sometimes on mornings like this. If you're unhappy and if you're sad and if you're miserable... What could make you happy today? What makes you happy about the United Kingdom right now? Because we sit here every day and we end up thinking that nothing is good. What makes you happy about the United Kingdom? Alarm Clock Brits 0344 499 1000, text to 87222. As we said, much misery in terms of football. Of course, that ongoing story of Anne Widdecombe's horrible, horrible murder. And yesterday was very interesting. We had the leader of Reform, Nigel Farage, on for 20 minutes. And interestingly, a development when we came off there yesterday was that a man has been arrested for threatening to kill Nigel Farage online. He actually said, if you win, I'll shoot you in the head, which again, I think, backs up massively the amount of danger there has been to Reform MPs and others. It's being investigated. We still can tell you that the counter-terrorism police have that 28-year-old suspect. He is a suspect only, in custody with no charges. And that's an ongoing story. But there is no doubt that the focus has been in Westminster as to the security of MPs. What Nigel was saying yesterday, which is I thought was quite interesting, was that he'd been offered a package some weeks, I guess months ago, but it was not in his mind adequate. This is a man who, I mean, they were reporting yesterday 597 death threats in a year, and so you would want what you perceive to be the most robust personal security. Yesterday, Reform's Zia Youssef unveiled a £100 million plan in a press conference yesterday morning to protect politicians. And you know, there's a question. I mean, I think we might get to that point. You think of Jo Cox. We've actually got Jo Cox, the Labour MP who was tragically murdered as well. We've got her husband, Brendan Cox, on the show this morning. Very interesting to speak to him. You think of David Amess, you think of Anne Widdecombe, it's appalling, and something has to be done. And I suspect that Zia's plan there will be something that people would support roundly. I don't know. We'll have your thoughts on that. What is it? 4 days to go till Andy Burnham is the new Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. There's a rumour this morning that Shabana Mahmood is the front-runner to be the next Chancellor. But let's just start, as we've started so many of these shows, because we won't be able to talk about him too often. Ladies and gentlemen, yesterday was Keir Starmer's last Prime Minister's question night. It was quite a blubfest. It was lots of crying. It's quite interesting watching 400 people who just stabbed you in the back, waving their order papers and looking sad. You're the reason he's going. Anyway, he said, and he left us all with a phrase that summed up his premiership. This is Keir Starmer yesterday.
I picked up our party. I turned it round. I made a promise to rip anti-Semitism out of my party, and I did. I turned my party to face the country, and we won a landslide Labour general election. And after 2 years, we've stabilised the economy. We have invested heavily in our public services. We put better protections in for children, particularly on child poverty. We've strengthened our defence, and we've enhanced our international reputation. I'm proud to leave this country in a better shape than I found it.
A very good morning to the amazing Poppy Coburn, Deputy Content Editor of the Daily Telegraph. We'll talk about the football in a minute. I've left the country in a better shape than when I took it on, just being honest. If that was the case, why have you just been booted out of office then, Keir?
Yeah, so I found the entire PMQs thing yesterday very bizarre. It felt like a big play that everyone was putting on for Starmer's benefit because they were worried he's going to start crying. So they just let him come out with his weird delusions and fantasies about how brilliant he was as Prime Minister, and everyone was going, oh, that's quite sweet, let's all clap along to that. But as you say, they've just all stabbed him in the back. I mean, I'm sure that as the PMQs ended, the first thing they did is text Andy Burnham and say, oh, Andy, how much I love you. Please give me a job in the Cabinet. Please, please, please.
And we know nothing about him. We know nothing about what he stands for, what he's going to do.
Well, why do we not know anything about Andy Burnham? Because his Labour Party colleagues are shielding him from any scrutiny. I mean, they've stitched up the way that they've actually put him in as Prime Minister, which, sorry, still hasn't officially happened, even though we know it will happen, to elongate the contest, even though they knew that nobody was actually going to fight him, just so he would come in and then basically have nothing to do for 6 weeks because of the recess. They did that deliberately because they didn't want any scrutiny of their new Prime Minister.
But there will be scrutiny at some point. So, well, they're buying some time. The people aren't that stupid. The other politicians aren't that stupid. Sorry, but Keir Starmer, if I asked you, I mean, I thought yesterday was quite interesting. Love your thoughts this morning, peeps. Let's just forget about the football. 0344 499 1000 on the phones, text to 87222, voice notes, get them in. If I said to you that I was watching an interview about his legacy and they all talked about Ukraine and the coalition of the willing, the problem with this country is, I'm sure that's important. We know that's important. But domestically, he has been an absolute failure. And the Labour government have been an absolute failure. They say they've lifted children out of poverty. They've created 14 breakfast clubs. But look at the lies that were told to the pensioners, to the WASPy women. Look what they've done to the farming community. Look what him and his hideous friend Herma, who, please God, is no more in government, did to our ex-servicemen and women who fought in Northern Ireland. That's not something to be proud of. That's something to be ashamed of, isn't it?
Even the stuff that he's trying to legacy build on the defence spending. Like, let's not forget, the thing that actually finally brought him down at the very end was him admitting that he didn't have any money to fund the defence plan properly.
And his defence secretary walked away.
Exactly. John Healey was so disgusted by his behaviour that he just walked out of Cabinet and said, I'm not doing this job anymore because I can't actually deliver on the things that I said I would deliver on. I mean, you're right. Keir Starmer, do I think he's the worst Prime Minister this country's ever had? Maybe not, but he's in the top 3.
Who was worse?
Struggling, I guess, probably Liz Truss. But, you know, if she had a bit longer, who knows, she might have turned out a bit better than Keir Starmer.
It's extraordinary. I mean, it was an extraordinary performance. Just about all the sat there, you know, shall we show the exit? Shall we show the exit? This is the final time that we will see... Look at the joy in my voice. There's no joy in my voice, by the way, because I think Burnham I literally think Burnham will be toast by Christmas, and I'll say that with my hand on... We'll talk about wealth taxes, and we'll talk about... It's all very, very nice, and you're right, he's just been shielded. Have you got a tissue? This is when Keir exited. Don't get upset, Pops. This is when Keir exited Prime Minister's Question Time for the final time, my friend.
To my successor and each of you, I will give my full support. To all colleagues across the House, can I wish you good health and happiness. To all those in the gallery whose lives have been changed or improved by this Labour government, and all across the country who struggle to be seen or heard, you're the reason I came into politics. To my wife and children, I love you. Goodbye.
Oh, sorry. It's a concern for our employees. You okay?
Yeah, I think I'm copying Rachel Reeves there. He looked as if she was crying in the chamber for the second time.
Well, she's just about to lose her job, isn't
yeah,
she?
well, exactly. I mean, Rachel Reeves is a great one to watch if you are a PM Keys watcher, because you can see over the last year or so, just the hope has just drained out that woman's eyes. She looks absolutely miserable.
When you just said what you said about Starmer, I'd like to up the ante and say I think she is quite palpably one of the worst, if not the worst, Chancellor we have ever had in our history.
Yeah.
And a complete lack of understanding about what's going on. But if you look at the basis of what those two tried to do, and they are linked inextricably, you can't promise and not fulfil. The Tories found that out.
Yeah.
You can't enter government after knowing you're going to be the next government for about 4 years with absolutely no plan. Yeah. And you can't base it all on luck. Well, do you know the other thing that struck me yesterday? You think about the mistakes that happened, and we start from the very first day, and Lord Ali, and then the pensioners, and the waspy women, and the farmers, and net zero, and the way they treated the armed forces, and they go on and on about Ukraine. But there was no... I never saw conviction. I never, ever saw something that I go, actually, OK, fair enough, he's standing up to the country or the papers or the media or whoever. Was absolutely devoid of any leadership whatsoever. And she, to me, summed up entirely the Starmer government. That doesn't mean, by the way, and I'll balance it, that what's to come is going to be any better. Let's not forget that the right-hand woman, the woman, OK, who is behind Burnham's rise in terms of working with MPs and doing what she's done, is a convicted fraudster. Louise Haigh lost her job in Keir Starmer's cabinet because it was found that she'd lied to police and has a record for that. She's going to be back in cabinet and a very powerful woman in Downing Street. What does that say about the lot of them?
Well, the truth is, they did inherit a really bad situation in government. That's true. Like, I will back them on that. The Tories really did mess up the country.
Absolutely.
But look at the people that you are seeing before you, that PM Keys on that front bench. None of these people, not one of them, was cut out for the job of governing in a normal time for this country. They would have been useless 20 years ago.
Yep.
To have them in now, there's been nothing short of disaster. That's the truth about Keir Starmer and co. Keir Starmer, I'm sure, is not, inherently the worst ever politician we could have. I'm not sure that there's some kind of characteristic about him that makes him totally unsuited to be a leader. But for this moment, he was the worst possible person because he was weak, he has no convictions, as you've just said, he couldn't control his backbenchers, so they just walked all over him. And by the end of it, you can see him, he's shaking, he's tired, he's exhausted. And what's his legacy? Well, stopping teenagers from looking at their phones at midnight, I guess, before they get round it.
His legacy will be this. 5, 4... Do you remember the countdown to the Christmas tree lights? There's just nothing about the
release
man.
the sausages.
Release
that's a good
the
one.
sausage. Actually, that's a good thing. See how the show works in my mind? On the day that he... well, this is his last day. What is in... Shall we be nice to Starmer? Let's balance it. Favourite moment of Starmer. Best thing about Starmer... You know what, they're all going to go, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Falling down the stairs. Just the whole thing.
Meep, meep. Do you remember Meep Meep?
Meep Meep?
Yeah, before he was...
Meep Meep? What are you talking about?
I can't remember. He sounded like... He sounded like Roadrunner. He went up to the dispatch box.
Meep Meep?
And he just went, Meep Meep, and then he just sat down again.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'd love to... 87222, there's a prize. What have we got today? Oh, yeah. Do you want a banana? A banana is the prize. What is your favourite memory of Keir Starmer? 87222. Morning, Jez, Gary and Bracken. Or Breek, I'm joking. Delighted, frankly, that England are out of the World Cup. All this "it's coming home" nonsense can now stop for another 4 years. However, on the downside, I'm now going to have to watch Argentina invade the Falklands probably the next 12 months and watch the UK do absolutely bugger all about it because we've got no defence. Morning, Tony.
Morning, Jezza. Tony here from Norfolk. Just letting you know, don't worry about the round ball, boys. At least we're going to beat Argentina at the weekend in the rugby. And we're playing them in Argentina. Plus the other bonuses, we still have the Falklands. That'll make you happy. Thank God Starmer's gone. Anyway, enjoy the rest of your day. Smile, be happy. Life goes on, mate. Keep up the good work. Catch you later.
Oh boy, down there in Norfolk, talking like that, isn't it? Well, to Bernard Matthews' dad country down there with them turkeys. You see, I wouldn't have him as a motivational speaker, but he's made me feel a little bit better about myself. I haven't asked you because it's been a mad morning. How did it go for you last night, if you're just tuning in? How did your World Cup disastrous, miserable night go? Was it in the pub with Mr. Coburn?
Yeah,
what was it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not the biggest football fan, so I'm not like as heartbroken as I'm sure everyone else in the country is, but I did go to the pub. I wasn't really interested for most of the time. I was like, oh, you know, we've scored, so we're going to win, right? I'm just going to sit outside and read a book or something now. I've had enough of this. And then...
You read a book while the football...
I don't care.
You read a book
care.
whilst the football was on?
No, I don't. I mean, look, I'm not a fan of football. I can't force myself to like it. I also thought if I stand in this pub, which was absolutely jam-packed, I am taking the space of someone who actually gives it.
Did your boyfriend wear an England shirt?
Yes, he did.
Was he drunk?
All day. He's in a very fragile state.
Hideous. And how miserable was he when we lost?
I don't think I've ever seen him that upset.
Are you
before.
really?
I'm not joking. I'm not
Literally
joking.
inconsolable.
The walk home, it was like that scene in Dunkirk where you're having to carry the men, you know, over the front line.
You had to carry him home from the pub, drunk and
not
depressed.
because he was drunk, just because he was so depressed by it.
Did he cry?
No, but he was close to it, and he was like, don't ever let me go see that again. I'm never doing this again.
So this is how I feel about the whole bloody thing.
Yeah.
I promised myself, and I'm 60 now, and that's it. Do you know what my son said to me yesterday, by the way? You've probably only got about 3 or 4 more World Cups in you. I mean, how nice is that, right? And he's right. I've probably only got 3 or 4 more World Cups in me. Git. No, I get it. I mean, listen, but we've got some breaking political news. Can you try and respond to this?
Go on.
The government has just announced they're going to bring British steel even into public ownership.
Oh, I thought they'd already announced they were going to.
I don't know how. Is that a legacy of Starmer? Well, I'm more interested in what you. I'm more interested in what the alarm clock Brits think is your favourite moment of Keir Starmer. Yesterday was his last day as Prime Minister. A tearful exit from Prime Minister's Question Time. What is your favourite moment? Mine has to be. Have we got it? Mine has to be the Christmas tree, because I cannot in my life ever remember or seeing or hearing somebody so utterly incapable of delivering any emotion at all. Have you got it? Have you got it? Yeah, well, right, this, you know, you're new in Downing Street, it's Christmas, the country's in the cusp of your hand. Keir, go out, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, let's all celebrate. Take it away, Mr. Boring.
Join me when I say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yay! It worked.
The best thing about that video is that after he says "way," it hasn't actually turned on
No,
yet.
because he's about 6 feet from the button because he didn't think to stand next to it. That is my favourite moment. What is your favourite moment of Keir Starmer as he exits Downing Street to be replaced by the manicured Mancunian, who we know nothing about? Apparently, Andy Burnham is considering raising taxes. That's a shock to me this morning. I've got the bit between my teeth today. And he's going to bring in a wealth tax. So if you are able to sort of eat or go to the supermarket, forget it, because that money's going to be taken from you. It's the old socialist playbook. I don't think anybody's got any idea what's coming around the corner.
No, I don't. I think, unfortunately, Andy Burnham is going to be a lot worse than Keir Starmer. And the reason for that is Keir Starmer, by the end, was so weak that he couldn't actually do anything.
And also, the reason that Burnham got in, you know, you talked about controlling your backbenchers. I made the mistake, I think, a couple of weeks ago of saying, has he now got the Parliamentary Labour Party in his hand? No, he is absolutely a hostage to the Parliamentary Labour Party, isn't he?
Totally. Well, if there's one thing that defines Andy Burnham, he's not a man of conviction, but he needs to be liked. That's always been true of him. If you read about what people have been saying about him in the last couple of weeks, people have known him for decades. They've always said he's fundamentally someone who wants to be the nice guy. That is a terrible trait to have in a leader of a country that is really in a bad situation like ours. So what he's going to do is he's probably going to cave on immigration reforms. Now Shabana Mahmood is probably going to move to be Chancellor, and God knows he will be in the Home Office. It won't be a hardliner because there aren't any others. He's probably going to cave on like all other things like welfare reform. That's not going to happen. You can see it in the Tim's report 2 weeks ago. That's not going to happen. They're not going to touch it. So the only way he's going to be able to make money when he's spending all this cash... I mean, if Ed Miliband doesn't go along with it, but he's going to do tax rises. Again, there will be more tax rises.
I think I've decided what I think is going to happen. I think Shabana Mahmood will be Chancellor. I think Wes Streeting will be Home Secretary. And I think he will send Ed Miliband off around the world as Foreign Secretary.
I'll be smarter than having him in the UK,
Absolutely.
ruining our economy.
So
Much
it's a
smarter.
It's a senior job, but you're nowhere near politics. Reasons to be cheerful, my friends. What is it? Two things this morning. What makes you happy? Because we're all hacked off, right? And what's your favourite Keir Starmer? I suppose you could say reasons to be cheerful. Turns out that we now own British Steel. Isn't that great for us to walk around this one and say, I own a piece of British Steel?
Yeah, we may have lost the World Cup, but at least we have British Steel, which has made a profit for God knows how long.
That brought me down again. George, good morning.
When are you going to learn, Jeremy? You said 5 weeks ago that this was going to happen. Oh, my God. I've not watched England play a competitive game for 28 years. I'm about the same age as you. And I tell you what, not for me, brother. I've got better things to do with my time than watch that. And this is not the first time England's come up against a defensive team. It's disgusting, brother. Anyway, have a great show, brother. Take care, George and Esther.
I have to say, it's all coming to us quite quickly this morning, which is proving that the slight haze of alcohol and lack of sleep was perhaps behind the lack of things. So I'm going to make it three things, OK? Your favourite Starmer moment, 87222, OK? What makes you happy on a morning of complete misery, 87222, and the story, Poppy, that Keir was given a rather lovely carriage clock. As a parting gift by the Cabinet, engraved with, "We stabbed you in the back, sod off." No, you've done a brilliant job, which is why we got rid of you. What goodbye gift would you, Poppy Coburn, buy Keir Starmer? That's
toolbox.
Genius. What?
Toolbox, to remind him of his dad.
Very good.
His dad was a toolmaker.
His dad was a toolmaker. What? Right, it's very simple this morning. What parting gift would you buy Keir Starmer? What makes you happy on a morning of misery? And what was the other one? My brain's not working. He's forgotten as well. And what's your best Keir Starmer moment? Let's make it about Keir Starmer, because let's be honest, there's nothing else to talk about. And also, the other thing is, we aren't going to be able to do this again. Oh, we've got to move on to the Mancunian Burnham the Bottler on Monday. 6:25, we're back in 3.
The number of young people claiming health benefits has doubled in the last 5 years. We have a real crisis here. I think much of it you can trace back to COVID and the whole furlough scheme. People got used to being at home. They don't understand what it's like to have a work ethic any longer. We really need to deal with the ticking time bomb of our youth, because within 10, 20 years, they're going to become the majority of our workforce. And if they're all skiving off like this, we're going to be an even bigger problem than we have now.
Yeah.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is...
Right, welcome back. It's obviously the only story in town. The night our dream finally died. Brilliant. Happy morning. Wonder Ball, front page of the Brilliant Sun. Harry Kane cuddling Lionel Messi. I'd have kicked him, to be honest, but there we go. Daily Telegraph. England World Cup dream over. So it's not a happy morning. The hopes of a nation dashed. England losing 2-1 to Argentina. And I'm not going to dissect this. We were rubbish. We were too defensive. Yes, some Argentinian players after the game were on the pitch with a banner saying the Falklands, the Malvinas are Argentinian. Why is that why am I reacting to that? We still have the islands. Keep your flag. I can't be doing with it. Do you know what I mean?
No, I also think in other Falkland Islands news, I was reading earlier in the week that apparently they're all going to get about 80 grand's worth of oil money because they've been drilling offshore. And the great thing about this is, guess what? Because they're an overseas protectorate, they're allowed to do that. If they were under the British government, Ed Miliband would have blocked them from
So the Falkland Islands are able to drill, but we're actually not able to drill.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
Welcome
So to be honest with you, we'll continue to talk about the fallout from that. We'll continue to talk about the continuing row over MP's security following the horrific murder of Anne Widdecombe last Wednesday. Of course, don't forget, police have arrested a man. And overnight, actually, we had Nigel Farage on the show yesterday. We were talking about security, amongst other things. Overnight, a man has been arrested for threatening to kill Nigel Farage. The suspect, who described himself as a terrorist on social media, warned Farage, "I'm going to shoot you in the head if you win." Yesterday, Reform's Zia Youssef announced a £100 million plan to protect politicians if Reform are elected. Lots going on. Andy Burnham's 4 days away from Downing Street. We're all massively excited. I bet I looked at him yesterday, and do you know what I've sussed out? He gets his eyebrows waxed.
Really?
Yes. Don't look at me as to why I know that.
No,
I've never had my eyebrows.
I get my eyebrows waxed, but why do you know about it?
Because I've spent my life for the last 20 years having makeup put on and Botox injected into my face and my teeth scraped and people going, "Oh my God, he's too big on camera." I admitted the other day about the Jeremy Kyle show.
What?
I don't even know why I'm going to say this. They never ever film me from above downwards. Do you know why?
Because it makes your face look fatter?
No, because it made me look shorter and you'd see the bald patch on the top of my head. So in my contract, that's why I sat down. They always had to point the camera upwards at me.
That's so funny.
Isn't that unbelievable? I think Andy Burnham will be going through it. I think his rider's going to be extraordinary. Anyway, on the basis of the fact that we're no good at football, that we've got a socialist going to be Prime Minister on Monday, and politics is in such an awful place, 3 little moments for you this morning, OK? 87222, banana is the prize. Your best Starmer moment in the last 2 years, minus the 4, you know. A goodbye gift that you'd have given the outgoing Prime Minister of this country, who was given a carriage clock by his colleagues after they'd stabbed him in the back. And ways to cheer up the nation. What makes you happy? Morning, Tony and Hove. I would give Keir Starmer a map of Davos. That's very good. Paul in Dorset. My farewell present from Starmer, a one-way ticket to Buenos Aires. Charles, good morning. I have the perfect goodbye gift for Starmer, but how do you wrap a kick up the backside into paper? Paul's in Dorset. Morning, Jez. I'm happy because I visited the Falkland Islands. They're lovely people and the islands are British. Don't start. John from Portsmouth. Listening to you in the morning makes me happy, Jez. Well, sometimes. Brilliant. Mick says, what makes me happy about Britain is that it can't get any bloody worse. Is that? Well, I think it might do.
Yeah, never say never.
Michael sums it up. Get a grip. Joanna from Salisbury. As I was quite sure our team was totally capable of wiping Argentina off the map, Starmer jinxed them. Yeah, you see, I think it's Starmer's fault. Every time Starmer supports something, it or they tank. He had his flight booked and might even have been late for the King's meeting. It was absolutely down to him. So it's down. Morning, Angry Rob.
Morning, Jez. Morning, Poppy. Quick one for Poppy. You need to tell your boyfriend to man up and put his big boy pants on. We lost, so what? What don't kill you makes you stronger. There. As for Burnham, isn't he the mayor that's left Manchester in God knows how much debt, about 1.8 billion? I mean, if that's what he can do to a city, imagine what he can do to a country. The bloke's a buffoon. I mean, you're going on about Argentina, forget them, mate. We'll be worse than Venezuela or Cuba. You give this commie git a couple of years in charge like Starmer, and we'll all be sitting on the side of the road, tapping little tin bowls, waiting for some rich tourist to come past and drop us a sandwich in. We're screwed. Labour, The gift that keeps on giving to the people that don't want to work, pay tax, or do anything positive this country. And if that ain't bad enough, he'll probably end up giving the bloody Falklands to the Argentinians. I hate this government. They are a bunch of
How good is he?
Well, that sums it up, doesn't it?
I'm gonna have to play that all morning. I think that's absolute genius. Loads of you, right? Loads of you getting involved. Your best Starmer moment. Pete says, the sausages, play the sausages. This is genius. Do you remember this? This is him early doors, being our international leader. Have a listen.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The return of the sausages.
The return of the sausages.
Oh my God, that's my favourite one.
I think Lee in Market Harbour, I'd forgotten this. This was bloody genius. He says, my favourite summer moment was when President Trump invited him up to the podium to speak. They didn't let him and turned his back on him. If you haven't seen this, this is absolute genius. Play this one, Marky. This is brilliant.
United Kingdom. Where's United Kingdom? Where's our friend? Where? Come here. Is everything going good?
Very good.
That's very nice that you're here. These people all came in like 20-minute notice, and I think it's fantastic. And we have so many others, and just so many others. And
he looks livid, Starmer. He goes up to the back. Nice of you to be here, and then just sod off. Look at the face on Starmer. Ooh. Trump had him. It'd be interesting to see what Trump and Andy Burnham are like.
I think that Donald Trump has made a few comments about Andy Burnham, or maybe just one comment is saying, like, Andy Burnham, I don't know who he is, whoever he is.
Is that your Donald Trump? Sorry, I need more of that. I need more of Poppy's Donald Trump.
No, I can't do it.
Sorry, go on,
I haven't got it. I don't know who he is. Andy Burnham. I don't think he cares.
No.
He's like, who's this person? I've had to deal with the wet wipe for 2 years, but at least he was, you know, nice to me.
There was somebody wrote this, and this is also, we haven't got this, but I always remember this. I was talking about this for a long time. The first time I saw them together, they strode out of somewhere, and Trump had one of his executive files where he'd signed orders to have everybody dealt with, and some paper fell. Did you remember this? And Starmer literally went straight down on both knees in front of Donald Trump and started scurrying up and picking the paper up and passed it to him like a sort of obedient boy. He definitely had the edge on him, didn't he, Trump? Pete on Starmer. Morning, Pete.
You mean the standing ovation at the end of because they've got rid of him? They all hated him in there. And as for the handshake from Lindsay Hoyle, and Starmer, arrogant and delusional until the end. What does he mean he left the country in a better place? Good God, the man even believes his own lies and rubbish. Doesn't he? Hans Christian Andersen couldn't even make up as many lies and fables and tales as that. I'm glad the man's gone, but we are in for a hard time now with Andy Vermin coming in.
Honestly, I love Alarm Clock. He's not got a chart. Andy Vermin. He hasn't
Andy Vermin.
He hasn't.
So yeah, maybe that's another question. What are all the nicknames?
I can't do this morning.
Sabir Korma. I like that one for Star. Do you remember Sabir Korma?
No.
No, this was during the pandemic when he had Currygate. When he was complaining about Partygate, and there was that picture through the window of him drinking a beer and having a curry with his colleague. Sabir Korma was my personal favourite. What's the other Starmer nickname?
Starmageddon.
Starmageddon.
No, Never Ear Keir.
Yeah, Two-tier Keir.
Two-tier Keir. Never Ear Keir. Honestly, the man... Free Gear Keir, yeah.
Free Gear? I forgot about that.
Free
I forgot
Gear,
about Lord Ali buying his wife clothes.
What's that? Out of ear, Keir. It's all going on, isn't it? I'm sorry, dear Keir. What? Listen, on a serious note, though, the reason that and we could have a laugh this morning, and there's so much that he did that I thought was utterly appalling and repugnant, none more so, and I will forever say this to I've got friends who were ex-forces, what he did to the servicemen and women in trying to literally prosecute them through that Troubles bill whilst giving immunity to the IRA, and he and his friend Hermer, I think, dreadful.
Ham is a horrific... he's got to be out. He's got to be out.
I would give Star and Andy Burnham voodoo dolls, says Graham in Bushy. Do you know I was conceived in Bushy?
I swear you've told me you were conceived in about 18 different locations.
No, Bushy.
I thought you said you could be conceived over a kebab shop in Brixton or something.
I said we lived above a fruit and veg shop in Brixton when I was a kid.
I've embellished
that I was conceived on a park bench in Bushy.
Oh, that's lovely.
I know. They're both dead now, though, so I can say it. Steve's from Leon C. Have you been to Leon C?
I've been to Leonsea, yeah.
I've never been. Parting gift for Starmer, free breakfast for a year. Yeah, where are your breakfast clubs? Because I haven't... Have you
I'm
seen...
hungry. Where's my breakfast?
Are you hungry?
Yeah, where's my free breakfast
Did you not
club?
eat dinner last night because your boyfriend was getting drunk watching the football? He just left you there reading a book?
Honestly, I couldn't eat. It was too upsetting.
Oh, bless you.
It was too upsetting.
Jezza, Brett from Basingstoke here, part of the 6 a.m. British get-up stuff. So the eyelash, a.k.a. the new PM, is going to ask us for more money as the incompetent King Richard has cocked up the books. I'm thinking of a holiday in France and come back on a small boat and get the lot free. I'm sick of this Labour crap. Starmer can now have a second job as a motivational speaker. I was going to say, what will he do?
Well, that's a good question, because usually ex-PMs go on the speaker's circuit, don't they? That's how they make their money. It's certainly what Boris Johnson's been doing.
Show.
Yeah, he's so uninspirational as a speaker. Who the hell is going to hire Keir Starmer?
I reckon he's actually because he got quite emotional. I saw more of him as a person in the last few weeks than I did when he was Prime Minister. I think he's completely in love with his wife.
Yeah.
I think he's. I think it was all very emotional. Maybe he'll surprise us all and end up as a
stripper.
A stripper?
Well, you don't know. I don't want to judge. He might.
Have you ever been to one of those what's it
Keir
called?
Starmer strip clubs?
Chippendale things?
No.
You have, haven't you?
What's a Chippendale thing?
Where all the men take all their clothes off.
No, you clearly have. You know what it is.
I've never been to it. I did the Jeremy Kyle show. I know everything about that sort of stuff. You've never been to a male strip club?
No, I haven't been to a male strip club.
You've never been to a hen do where you can't see Starmer doing the full Monty.
God, that'd be amazing, wouldn't it? So, like, and where's the bride to be? Where's the bride to be? And then Keir Starmer walks into the room wearing his suit for now.
Oh my God, this is...
Sorry, guys. It's already bad enough that we lost the football.
Right, we've got another question now. Honestly, this whole show's on... What's the ideal next job for Keir Starmer? 87222. Right, so his best moment. The gift you'd buy him before you kicked him out the door, right? Next job for Keir Starmer. I mean, we've got to make it about Starmer because after this week, there's not going to be much to talk about.
We're not going to talk about our favourite person anymore.
Morning, Pops, and whatever the other bloke's called. I'm with Poppy. Couldn't care less about the football. I spent yesterday evening building a model tank, says Paul in Hitchin. Now, I'm not being disrespectful, but I suspect you were on your own building your tank. JK. Well, come on. You can't want the footballs on build a model tank. That's the sort of thing.
Reading a book.
That'll probably be bloody Starmer to build a model tank.
Well, that's how we're going to fix our defence plan. Starmer's going to build the tanks that we can use.
Sean says, Poppy, you've forgotten the Liatola.
Oh, my God, that's a good one.
That was great. Starmer the Liatola. Morning, Jez and Pops. Please get Rob a slot on talk. He's brilliant, says Brian in Worthing. Couldn't agree more. We've done the model building. Paul, I'm only joking in Hitchin. What a fantastic pastime that must be. Almost as exciting. When I was a kid, we did stamp collecting.
God.
That was really boring.
Days before the internet must have been dark.
You see, we didn't have anything. We didn't have anything like that.
Yeah, you make it sound really appealing.
We had to go outside and stay and...
Collect stamps?
Yeah, stamp collecting. Marbles. Just throw the marble and try and hit somebody else's marble.
Would you go up a chimney as well?
She'd say, get out, and you'd get on your bike and go to the park and play cricket against a tree, because there were no wickets, we didn't have any money. And then she'd shout tea, and you'd come in and you'd have bread and water, and then you'd go to bed.
Bread and water?
That's all we had.
Are you an urchin?
A what?
Were you Oliver Twist?
Yes, I was. Can I have some more, please? Starmer being chucked out the pub. Do you remember this?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, we've got this as well. This is... Amanda, you're right. Starmer being... Get that horrible man out of my pub. Have a watch.
I'm not allowed in my pub. No, Laura. I'm not going to physically hurt him. That man... Oi! That's assault. I am not bothering you. I am not bothering him. That man is not allowed in my pub. Get out of my pub. Go on. Calm yourself down. Get out of my pub. Calm down. Sorry. Thank you.
It never quite worked for him, did it? He got thrown out. That was the landlord who was being manhandled by security. Get out of my pub, you odious man. Are we starting to feel sorry? No, we're not. Right, so your best Starmer moment, the goodbye gifts that you'd buy for Keir Starmer, and what will his next job be? Poppy thinks he's going to be a stripper. Morning, Kev.
Morning, Jeremy. Kevin in Sheffield. Regarding David Lammy apparently giving Starmer a carriage clock, wow, nobody's ever thought of that before, have they? You ought to get that bloke on Mastermind. But I think really his leaving present should be a life-size model of a inflatable dinghy, because let's face it,
under his leadership, he's literally had an open borders policy, and it's still continuing to this day, and I don't expect it to change. Also, he'll also be remembered for trying to get rid of free speech. You know, if he didn't like anything, he shut it down by calling everybody far right. Good riddance to the worst Prime Minister in my living memory.
Here at Talk, we're giving you the chance to win a massive £26,000. The question is, what would you do with all that money?
I don't know. We've got a wedding.
I would buy a camper van.
Probably just like clothes, yeah.
Not on a big holiday.
Emigrate.
So if you fancy getting your hands on £26,000 tax-free, here's all the details you need to enter.
For your chance to win, visit talk.tv/win or text TALK to 8338 by 6 p.m. on the 20th of July 2026. Texts cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or send your name and number by post to Comp 1, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, to arrive by midnight on the 23rd of July 2026. 18 plus, UK residents only. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 8338 now. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talk.tv/win.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, my friends. Thursday the 16th of July. We've lost the football. Starmer's out the door. Andy the socialist is coming in. Everything's not happening particularly well. We're having a bit of fun just for the first hour. 87222. What is your best Keir Starmer moment in the last 2 years? What goodbye gift would you buy Keir Starmer? And what should Keir Starmer's next job be? Morning, Jez. I'd actually give him a round-the-world trip on HMS Dragon, you feet. You know, the only bloody boat we've got that couldn't make it out of port. Yeah, I remember that. It was embarrassing. Jackie says I give him a packet of sausages. Colin in Richmond, which is a link to sausages. Did you see what I did there? I'd buy Keir Starmer Lucy Connolly's book, A Tweet Too Far. I'd have her sign it with a heartfelt message. Have a happy day. We own the Falklands, so sod the Arges. Brilliant. OK, fair enough. Get Starmer a U-turn road sign. P.S. Still time for him to U-turn and remain Prime Minister, says Craig. Not a chance. Chris in the Southwest. That's quite general, isn't it? Southwest. If you play that Christmas clip again, could you put some Thunderbirds music in the background? Have we got that? We'll do that now. Oh, you're doing it now? Right. Oh, we're going to play with Thunderbirds music? We're very organised. Let's just do it. You see how I prepare myself? I don't know what's going on. Play it then. Go on.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
That is brilliant,
That's
team.
fantastic.
Love it. A farewell gift for Sir Keir. How about a special edition pack of sausages called Porkies? Adrian Baird in Buckhurst Hill. I'm loving it. Wayne, by the way, this is a broadcasting announcement. This is a public service. Wayne sounds like he's had a bit of a rough night. Morning, Wayne.
Morning, Jazza.
Oh.
It's Wayne from Erdington in Birmingham, mate. Tommy to Joe. He's just Roy Hodgson in disguise. What an absolute shambolic letdown for the rest of the country. Keep up the good work, Jazza. What's up, man?
He makes me feel good this morning. Leslie, my gift to Stammer will be a loo brush because all he's done is talk it.
There's absolutely no sympathy coming in for Starmer,
No,
is there?
none whatsoever. So, your best Starmer moment, a goodbye gift for Keir Starmer. What should his next job be? We're going to cross to LA, where I just think she's going to be a lot happier. We'll keep Poppy on screen. Honestly, you need to help us through the next few hours. Kinsey Schofield, good morning.
Good morning.
We're not happy in England today. We lost the football to the bloody Argentinians. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
And we don't have a Prime Minister who would phone up Infantino and say, can you please make sure we win, unlike the Americans. Are you all right, darling? Have you been poorly, as we say in England?
I am poorly. Can I tell you what I would give Keir Starmer on his way out?
Sorry, is this your throat? Your voice sounds incredible. You need to do some voiceover work today.
Yes. I would buy him Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
That's very good. Did you catch this on the plane back from seeing us last week? Seriously?
You know, I slept maybe 3 hours a night every night while I was there.
Oh, well, that's more than I did last night, but that's another story. I've so much to talk to you about. There's rumours today, and just verifying on a royal front entirely what we've talked about. Prince William apparently no plans at all to end his war with his brother. He avoided him on his UK return last week, vehemently angry with how his brother has treated the monarchy in general. Said it last week. I don't think that will ever thaw, do you?
No. I mean, can you blame him? And that's the strength we're looking for in a future monarch. You know, standing by your principles, standing by your wife and your and protecting your family's peace, which is ultimately what he's doing, and keeping a distance between him and Prince Harry. I think that King Charles's meeting with Prince Harry ultimately, and I understand a man living with cancer, grandchildren, I get it, but I think ultimately it makes him look weak. And a lot of people are disappointed that Meghan gets to do a victory lap with her daytime Emmy nomination.
I thought that, sweet, but then I have to be honest. I think in the end, and I know that William and Camilla were against the idea of it, but in the end, you know, I think to myself, it's actually quite clever, and I'll tell you why. He can tick the box, Charles. Tick the box of I'm a dad, I'm seeing my son, I can't be accused of ostracising him. There was obviously real pressure for them not to print or say anything. And if anything does come from that, then he has the absolute right to say, we're done. You say she's got a tick, yeah, her kids met the king, their grandfather, but in her world, she would want that seen, she would want that heard. I don't think that will have done much to her. I think the reason she didn't show her face in the United Kingdom is because she knows what people think about her here. I really do think that.
I mean, I do too. She just got a daytime Emmy nomination, though, so...
What?
Walking on sunshine.
Sorry, I know you've lost your voice and we're crap at football. Meghan Markle's got a daytime Emmy nomination.
For With Love, Meghan, the show that was recently cancelled.
Is that the one where she said, oh, look what I can do with a pavlova?
Look at my bag of pretzels. I'm putting it in another bag of pretzels.
Who's phoning and giving her that? Why a daytime Emmy nominations? Very few of us get those.
Well, you know, what she did was, obviously, one of the production companies paid to have her considered for the nomination. And then, yeah.
Wow. You're on one today.
Well, no, I mean, that's the way it goes. You have to pay to be considered. The industry looks at a group, and yes, I think 5 are chosen, but she's in a very unique niche category. And so, will she win? I don't know. This show's absolutely ludicrous. Meet my best friends. Hi, nice to meet you.
Never met them. Welcome to my kitchen. It's not my kitchen. Have a look at my recipe. I've never cooked a bloody meal in my life. I mean, the whole thing's that programme... Did you ever see it, Poppy?
What's this? The Meghan Markle show?
Yeah, where she was in a kitchen.
Why would I watch a Meghan Markle television show, Jeremy?
Well, you need to be more with it. Did you not see it? It blew us all away.
I try my very best to avoid Meghan Markle, but she is working so hard to protect her privacy, be in the public eye at every opportunity, that I find it impossible to avoid her.
I thought that you would have had... I thought you'd quite like Meghan Markle.
So on the basis of what?
I don't know.
What kind of insult is this?
No, not. I'm not insulting you. I'm scared. I'm scared of you this morning. I've had no sleep, and your boyfriend got upset about the football. She does, though. Both of you would agree with this. She don't get the bloody message, does she?
No.
She doesn't, Kins... I mean, I don't think she showed her face this week because actually, essentially, right, nobody wants... I'm sorry, it's a fact. Burn that bridge.
Yeah.
Just insulted our royal family, they're all racist, and yet you want your kids to be a prince and princess associated with something that you vehemently hate.
Well, Kinsey won't be able to say it's not just the people in the UK that don't want her. I don't think people in America are that fussed about her.
They've just given her an Emmy nomination.
I just don't understand. What, for a show that's cancelled?
I spent 15 years doing a daytime television show. I won 6% of the Year Awards, but I never got nominated for an Emmy.
Well, that's because you're not part of the Royals, I suppose, or formerly part of the Royals.
No, that's true.
Well, I do agree that she will be disappointed that there's not proof yet that she met with the king. But if I were Queen Camilla, I'd be counting the toilet paper rolls and the silver to ensure that she didn't steal anything out of Highgrove.
So she's a tea leaf as well as a complete nightmare. Also, by the way, you know Prince Harry, who didn't have a great week, did he? Because he came over and lost his case against Associated Newspapers. Then there was a story that Elton was going to shove him 20 million. Apparently Elton said you can shove it. Today, former Justice Secretaries have said that Harry's attack on the hacking case judge was totally unacceptable. He said it was a whitewash. So the legal system, of which your father's in charge, you described as a complete whitewash in the United Kingdom.
And that's one of the reasons why I couldn't believe King Charles saw him so quickly after he was so disrespectful and released that statement. However, to your point, I wonder if King Charles, legacy-wise, wants to be seen as the bigger person.
Yeah.
Because Harry and Meghan are never going to be. So this is King Charles saying, you know, I put our issues aside and I saw my grandchildren and I saw my son, and in a way gave my son the win that he needed by seeing him on this failure of a trip.
I mean, I think that's the point. I think it ticked a box. I don't think it's going to lead. Listen, I cannot believe that you have been good enough to come on with your voice as it is, my darling. Can you stay on the line, though, off air and do some voiceovers? You're listening to Jeremy Kyle on Talk. It's fascinating, your voice today, by the way. Can you just say Jeremy Kyle on Talk for me a minute?
Jeremy Kyle on Talk.
Oh, my God. Oh, Kins, I hope you feel... It's gone now. That'll be on Jimmy Kimmel, not. Listen, take care, I hope you feel better, and we'll speak to you very soon.
Thank you.
God bless her. She was over here last week. She's not well. It's raining in. Best Starmer moment. Goodbye gifts for Keir Starmer. Next job for Starmer. He could open his own salon to wax Burnham's eyebrows and call the shop Keirless Waxer. Steve, Leon C. These are brilliant. Lonnie or somebody who's on their own. Please pick up Off the Floor. Great job to the crew behind the scene with the Thunderbirds music. Please pick me up off the floor. Oh, right. Hi, Jez and Pops. Farewell gift to Starmer, a piano so Starmer can write a West End musical called Breakfast Clubs. The musical, says Ryan. Craig from Stockton-on-Tees. Morning, Jez and Pops. For Starmer's gift, I believe he should get Nigel Farage's autobiography, considering as how he lives rent-free in his head. As for my favourite memory is when he was at the races receiving abuse. He just gets abuse everywhere. Steve's in Cornwall. I think, personally, he would have been a good replacement for Bungle if they ever remade the children's Hello. Do you remember Rainbow? No, not at all. She's
not a chance.
You don't. Michelle's in Altrincham. It's not coming home. My funniest moment, though, was the Nobel Peace Prize comment that really made me laugh. I can't stand the man, and thank God I don't want to see him popping up on my TV again. This was the Nobel Peace Prize moment. Have a watch. This is brilliant.
And as well as Matt, I'm delighted that the inspiring Nobel Peace Nobel Prize winner.
I think he was trying to say Playmobil at one moment there.
Rumour is that Starmer is taking a job in a grocery store, but I don't think he'll accept the salary. Oh, Simon in Durham, I love you. Pops, thank you. What's your abiding memory of Keir Starmer?
Oh, Oh, that's my abiding memory of Keir Starmer. You know, I think the early ones are the classics. The story when it came out that Lord Ali was buying his wife's clothes was so weird and so confusing that I think it's still stuck in my head as my favourite moment of Keir Starmer. Just watching him on television, like, kind of wiggling about as we're describing him
I wish
paying for
somebody
his
would buy my wife's clothes, to be
socks
honest.
and dresses. It's just blooming weird, isn't it?
2 years, the curtain is down. We'll keep it going. Best moment for you guys of Starmer. Goodbye gift for Starmer and what his next job must be. You've a job, though. You've got to rush home for getting work today and make sure that your boyfriend gets over the misery of last night's football.
Exactly. Well, now we're not going to win the World Cup. I think that discussion about getting a bank holiday is off the cards, so back to work.
Absolutely. Bless you. We love her. The amazing Poppy Coburn, who will be back next week, assistant comment editor for the Daily Show. You see, I'm doing a Starmer.
You're doing a
Nobel Peace Prize. Can you say that news at 7 is next?
The news at 7 is next.
Thank you.
She's the best-looking world leader in my book, so I wouldn't fall out with her. I quite fancy Georgia. When she's not busy running the country, perhaps we could hook up.
Well, you do know she's single because her partner
Yeah, but
tried to have a threesome, and that got leaked to the media, and they had to get a divorce. So she's back on the market.
She's on the
again.
market, right?
Oh.
Right, get me a ticket for
a threesome as well.
I'll get in trouble with my wife about this. Next question.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
I've got some breaking news here. The Crowborough Army Training Camp could hold male asylum seekers all the way until 2030. After the...
Someone else's money today, another taxpayer, or even worse, it's the money from our future selves. And we keep making this mistake.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back or welcome along. If you're just joining us, standard, said my wife last night. I know all about the misery, the length and breadth of this country. Let's have it out, shall we, at the start of every single hour. I'm not interested in, oh, we played well to get that far. I'm not interested in, oh, the Argentinians were dirty and waved a flag. You go 1-0 up, you're 7 minutes from a World Cup final, and you think you might as well sit back on your goal line and invite the best player in the world to just play for 15 minutes. Ridiculous. And if that, by the way, Tuchel, is what a the highest paid football manager in the world is supreme tactics, then God help us. Anyway, listen, it's all over the dream, and to be honest with you, that just about sums it up. But more than that, and we'll talk about football. How was your night? Rubbish. How was your morning? Knackered. How do you feel? Hacked off. Apart from that, let's have a little bit of fun. It's been a very deep and dark week, and we will continue, of course, to talk about the escalating row over the horrendous murder of Anne Widdecombe, of course, last week. Police have arrested, we know this, a 28-year-old suspect. That is an ongoing situation with counter-terrorism. They have days to do this. People will have theories. We're going to wait to deal with this when we know more, because the man is just a suspect and no charges. We had Nigel Farage on the show yesterday being incredibly open about the fears that he and other MPs, not just Reform MPs, have now in public life. Zia Youssef held a press conference. He was very adamant that a Reform government would spend money on protecting all politicians at a cost of £100 million, which, in the light of what's going on, would seem an absolutely correct idea to have. But to give you some idea of where we're at with this story, Nigel Farage overnight, a man's been arrested for threatening to kill Farage. The suspect, who described himself as a terrorist on social media, sent him a message saying, "I'm going to shoot you in the head if you ever win." That is the reality for politicians in this country right now. However, politicians in this country aside, yesterday was a very sad day. It was the last day for Keir Starmer at Prime Minister's Question Time. Of course, after tomorrow, he loses his job and he's replaced by the manicured Mancunian, Andy Burnham, or as he's already called by several of you, Andy Vermin. The man hasn't even spoken yet. I mean, he's going to get the job, doesn't have to speak till September. But we thought, in honour of Keir Starmer, we just set a little challenge today. We wanted to know Keir Starmer's best moment from you on 87222. We wanted to know what you'd buy him as a goodbye gift. They bought him a carriage clock inscribed with "You were crap, goodbye." And what would be his next job? Let's just put into context Keir Starmer's 2 years. He, to the last moment yesterday, believes he did a good job. This is what he says about how he's leaving the country.
I picked up our party, I turned it round. I made a promise to rip anti-Semitism out of my party, and I did. I turned my party to face the country, and we won a landslide Labour general election. And after 2 years, we've stabilised the economy. We have invested heavily in our public services. We put better protections in for children, particularly on child poverty. We've strengthened our defence, and we've enhanced our international reputation. I'm proud to leave this country in a better shape than I found it.
Yeah, better shape. We've got some breaking news about that. The economy, ladies and gentlemen, it's breaking news here on Talk, grew by 0.1% last month. That's what he calls leaving the country in good shape. I prefer Angry Rob, who, if it's anything to do with me, will replace me on this breakfast show very soon, because I think he's far better. Good morning, Rob.
Morning, Jez. Morning, Poppy. Quick one for Poppy. You need to tell your boyfriend to man up and put his big boy pants on. We lost, so what? What don't kill you makes you stronger. There. As for Burnham, isn't he the mayor that's left Manchester in God knows how much debt, about 1.8 billion? I mean, if that's what he can do to a city, imagine what he can do to a country. The bloke's a buffoon. I mean, you're going on about Argentina, forget them, mate. We'll be worse than Venezuela or Cuba. You give this commie git a couple of years in charge like Starmer, and we'll all be sitting on the side of the road, tapping little tin bowls, waiting for some rich tourist to come past and drop us a sandwich in. We've screwed Labour, the gift that keeps on giving to the people that don't want to work, pay tax, or do anything positive to this country. And if that ain't bad enough, he'll probably end up giving the bloody Falklands to the Argentinians. I hate this government. They are a bunch of
James Price, former government special advisor. That just about sums my morning up. How are you, my friend?
It was great to have my dad on just then doing that. You can see where I get it from. Look at that. What a patriot that guy is. Let's get him in the next government.
Oh, mate. You look a lot better. I'm sure you're not interested in my story, but I managed just 2 hours sleep last night. I watched the game. I was going to get my usual 4. Then the boy needs picking up because there's no cabs. Then the 23-year-old from 400 miles away rings me up at midnight and goes, "My fire alarm's going off in my new flat. And what am I supposed to do?" And I'm now telling her to stand on a chair on top of a box with a mop. Honestly, so I've decided that I'm just gonna move on quickly. Jake, before we talk more seriously, I'm putting you on the spot. Best Starmer moment for you?
Oh, it's when he's in, I think it's the Labour Party conference, and he flubs one of his lines. He's supposed to trying to be robust and pro-Israel and anti-Hamas for once, and typically he can't do it. So instead of saying, release the hostages, he ends up saying, release the sausages.
We've got that. Can we play Release the Sausages? This is a great, great moment. Play this.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza. The return of the sausages.
Jay, I've got a better one because we've played around with this. My favourite moment is the completely nasal, drippy voice when he did the countdown to putting the Christmas tree lights on.
Yes,
but
and he sounds like a Dalek.
Well, we've put this to Thunderbirds music, people. Good morning. Watch this. You'll love it.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Thunderbirds are go.
How good's that, Jay?
That's amazing. But this is the problem, right? Like, what can even Labour supporters, of whom I'm not sure you and I could probably be classed as two, but
no.
What do they think his best moment is? I mean, really, there is nothing that I can particularly think of that he's done. The economy is in a worse shape. The boats haven't stopped coming over. Our defence is even worse. We've spent more time, suing the best and brightest Special Forces members. We've been trying to give away sovereign territory. We've fallen out with all of our allies. I mean, what is literally?
No, and that's the point. And to, you know, as a man, I saw him and his family, and you get upset, but. You touched upon the troubles, Bill, the legacy thing. I think that is disgusting. I think he and Herma. To treat people like that is utterly, utterly repugnant. But however nice he might or might not be, the man, and we label him a complete flop. You can talk about... I was watching a tribute yesterday. Well, I wasn't watching a tribute. It was the BBC, happened to be on in the background. And the truth of the matter is, all he talks about now is Ukraine. Because domestically, which is what the British people are worried about, the very things you talked about, they're worried about borders, they're worried about net zero, they're worried about the welfare bill outstripping what we get from people actually going to work. They're worried about a country that hasn't even looked into what actually has and is going on with children being groomed and raped and treated in the most appalling way. No, all he could say was, you know, I was strong on Ukraine and I created breakfast clubs. But it brings us, of course... What do you think his next job could be, by the way, as a joke? Poppy Coburn said he could be a stripper in the Chippendales. That was funny.
God, that's a bit too early for that one.
Starmer in the full Monty. There's the thought.
Well, think about how he fiddled things for Mandelson, and think about how he fiddled things to get Lord Ali to pay for all of his clothes. I think he's just about crooked enough to go and work for FIFA.
Let's get your response to the game last night, boy.
Look, for all those people who are getting their kids ready for school, obviously it's poor form to be a sore loser. We shouldn't teach kids to do that. But I would say that it is even poorer form to allow injustices to go ahead. And if you take a minute this morning, people, and go online and watch some of the compilation videos of the just horrendous fouls that Argentina got away with again and again and again. Elliot Anderson gets some kind of karate chop to the back of his head at one point. Messi has a foul on Bellingham, I think, in the box that would be probably considered illegal in rugby, let alone in football, and they get away with it. And I think the stats actually bear this out. They've committed more fouls than any other team, and they've got fewer yellow cards per foul than any other team. I think the whole thing is an absolute disgrace, and I think people should put in, the FA, should put in an official complaint.
But to me, I mean, I don't usually disagree with you. To me, that's the biggest thing about last night was, which really infuriates me because we were 7 minutes from a World Cup final, is that real English trait that my dad used to talk about with rugby. Before Clive Woodward came along with rugby, we were always tight. It was better to lose minimally than play expansive rugby. And look what happened. He came along, there was expansive rugby, and we won the World Cup, and whenever it was, with Johnny Wilkinson. The fact is, last night, they were controlled. They were great for 55 minutes. You go 1-0 up, put some players on and try and get the bloody ball in their box and try and score a second. No, we put 10 people back on the line and ask them for 20 minutes, the Argentinians, with whatever you think of Messi, he's absolutely unbelievable footballer. He played with us. And do you know, I literally, the minute he went defensive, The minute that happened, I knew. The minute the first goal went in, we're out. You were just waiting for the second. Just so frustrating. And my massive criticism is Tuchel. If that's a tactician being paid £4 million a year, seriously, not good enough. Can't wait to hear what they say at TalkSport. But the other thing, by the way, that's banned this morning, people, is people who go, didn't we do well to get to the semi-finals? No, we bloody well didn't. Jay, let's talk about, if we can, the continuing fallout after the horrendous murder of Anne Widdecombe. Yesterday I had Nigel Farage on the show. Nigel was talking about security, amongst other things, and how he'd been offered an inadequate, that was the word, package by the government before. He was reported in the papers, actually not by him yesterday, that he had 597 death threats last year, 30 a month, sometimes more than that. And last night, police arrested a man for threatening to kill him. The suspect, who described himself as a terrorist on social media, warned Farage, "I'm going to shoot you in the head if you win." Something has to be done. Azir Youssef yesterday, I thought was brilliant, unveiled a £100 million plan to protect politicians, and we're not going to have to get to that point. We've had Joe Cox, we've had Sir David Amess, of course. Appalling.
Yeah, absolutely right. And look, when you work in and around it, you can feel this sometimes. My old boss, Nadim Zahawi, would get this sort of stuff as well, and he'd get it from both sides. He'd get it from people sort of saying, oh, you know, you're a race traitor and all that kind of stuff. He'd get it from Islamists who didn't think he was good at, you know, all that kind of stuff. Absolutely horrendous. You see Farage going around, the kind of security that he has to have, and we've seen the milkshakings and all this kind of stuff. The problem is, of course, because we haven't dealt with this stuff very robustly early on. It's now got so bad that the counter-reaction that Zia Youssef is suggesting is possibly one of the only ways you can go forward with this. And what will happen is it will further cordon off politicians from the rest of us and from being able to understand what's really going on. Jez, anyone who's listening to this, who's actually been into Parliament, will see that there is a huge ring of steel around the whole place. Right? And it's interesting, again, and I think that's perfectly fine. But of course, what it does a lot of the time is it insulates these politicians from the consequences of their actions. And the fact that they are not on any side, frankly, strong enough on law and order and on cracking down on crime. They're not strong enough on the threat of Islamist terrorism. They're not strong on the fact that we've got a lot of crazy people out there who should be put away in special institutions for their own good as well as the rest of us. And it's only then when they go away to their constituencies that you then run the risk and they start to get scared, rightly so, and then they can't feel they can talk out about it. The crazy one for me was Jess Phillips, not someone of whom I'm a particularly big fan, let's be honest, especially after she defended and justified that Muslim militia arming itself just after the Southport riots and going on a random attack because they thought some far right might be around. But if you remember her election count, and she nearly lost the count to a kind of Gaza independent type, but she was screamed at and threatened and all the rest of it. And even then she couldn't bring herself to talk about the scale of the threat and just said, oh, it was some men. If we can't even say the kind of problems that you've got, whether it's Islamist terrorism, whether it's sort of far left communist terrorism, whatever else it may be, far right, if we can't even say the threat, how are we going to defend anybody against it, let alone politicians?
Well, we haven't, maybe we have, sorry, it's been a long week. The Anne Widdecombe thing is so shocking, but it does. It does absolutely, because it's an ongoing counter-terrorism situation right now. It does answer a lot of questions for many people, which is, you know, how, not just Reform MPs, but why would anybody want to enter public life now? Why would anybody want to put themselves in a position where, essentially, you know, they could end up having their life taken just for robust beliefs or that they're doing the job?
Yeah, it's a great point. Look, I mean, my wife has said this before. Even, you know, when you and I chat about stuff, she's like, "Oh, darling, you're really going to say that thing? I know it's true, or whatever, but you're going to upset somebody." And I've never had anything particularly bad, but you get, you know, freaks on Twitter saying horrible things and all the rest of it. And
can I ask you something as a mate? Can I ask you something as a mate? Because I think this is. I've never said this on air. I refuse to do Twitter or X. I've never done it. I use my Instagram account for pictures of my kids. I don't understand, and I've said this to Farage, I've said it to people. I don't understand why people would give any oxygen or headspace to the sorts of people that say the sorts of things they do on social media. What people will say to me, oh, I need to get my news, I need to get opinion. Maybe I learnt it from doing the job I got, but 50% of the people that watch my own show thought I should be Prime Minister and 50% think I shouldn't have existed. So I used to think, do you know what, there's no point. And I do think people are so obsessed that when they hear, I won't name who it is, famous television presenter, comes to see me in Manchester when I'm making the Jeremy Kyle show. He's been to a football match. We sit down for dinner and he, is it tweets or whatever, having dinner with Jeremy. Within seconds, Kyle's up, and he's getting visibly upset. I said, you've invited that man. You're having dinner. Why are you inviting that into your life? People are entitled to their opinions, but if I don't want to, if it's going to be trolled, why invite it into your life, Jay?
I think there's a piece of hygiene on this, which is that you should never, ever, ever, you or anybody else, read the comment section of any websites. You should never look at replies.
I never have.
And let alone get involved in them. If for no other reason, by the way, then I think an extraordinarily high number of them are coming out of St. Petersburg and Shenzhen and Tehran and wherever else you want to care to mention. Genuinely, I do. And I think that a lot of people on the left who think they've got all these people agreeing with them and so on have been, and by the way, they always accuse the right of being in the pocket of Russia or whatever else. I think these people are totally in the pocket of a very impressive psyop from the enemies of democracy, the enemies of freedom, people around the world who absolutely hate us. Because you only had to see what happened when Iran was being bombed. All those weird Scottish separatist accounts went quiet. Funny that, isn't it? And that these people, you would think from looking at Twitter that most of the country wants the monarchy to go away and wants full communism, and that is not what actually happens out there in the real world or in real polling. So I think politicians always have to have a thick skin because people will always go against them. But I do think that the advent of both technology and our soft on crime attitude in general has created more of a perfect storm where keyboard warriors think it's okay to say horrible things online. And if it's not challenged, then I think they will escalate up and they will act in the real world eventually.
Final question. This is great from Peter. He says, read this to James. Starmer says he stabilised the economy, and immediately Andy Vermin, that's what they call him here, say people will have to pay more tax to help the public purse. Hang on, which one is it? Oh, yes, both liars. Very briefly, Andy Burnham, 4 days away, and we don't even know what he stands for, JP.
Look, I think we're going to come to miss Keir Starmer, as mad as that sounds. But we don't even know who his Chancellor is going to be yet.
They're saying Shabana Mahmood. That's the rumour this morning, front runner.
But the fact that this stuff is even in question, or he hasn't even announced it yet to the civil service, they've not even been able to have what they call access talks, where the civil servants get the person who's going to take over the job and start to find out what they think about it. You've got Shabana Mahmood, who's apparently reasonably sane on the economy. Probably they're moving her out, by the way, because she's the one person who's trying to stop the horrible Boris wave of people coming in and getting a lifetime of benefits, to get her out so we can give more benefits and more money to illegal immigrants who come into the country. Or Red Ed Miliband, who is the person who's done more to damage the economy over the last years than anybody else. You can't even find out whether it's the craziest person in the world or just a vaguely crazy person. Doesn't make it seem to me like he's got a particularly firm set of beliefs, which is not a good sign for our wallets.
Couldn't agree more, mate. Great to have you on. Fantastic as ever. 7:20. Thank you to James Parris, former special government advisor. Are we going to a break? Charlie, good morning.
Morning, Jezza. It's Charlie and Jules and Darren on their way to work again to pay that £40 billion welfare bill. The best Starmer moment. Well, the best Starmer moment I can think of is yesterday when he was in the House of Commons saying goodbye to everybody. There you go. That's the best moment. Listen, let's hope Andy Burnham does well, because if he doesn't, it's just going to be the same old, isn't it? So I wish Andy Burnham all the best, and I hope he pulls his head out of his backside and does something for the country, because if he doesn't, we're all in the doo-doo.
thought about it hard, and I've decided today I will resign as a Member of Parliament for Clacton-on-Sea, thereby forcing a by-election.
Count Binface apparently is now 5-1. Brilliant. You know, so look, I mean, you know, if I were being flippant, I'd say Count Binface's campaign is now well and truly up and running, and Reform are struggling to put a lid on it.
Let me be absolutely clear. I have done nothing wrong. I have not broken the law.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, before we go into the sport in detail, morning, Andy.
My old man's a toolmaker. I'm his biggest tool. And the thing that I'm most proud of is breakfast clubs for school. I'll look you up for tweeting. I'll label you for right. And I'll put up all your taxes because I'm a ghastly shit.
Keir Starmer. We're just talking about Keir Starmer, his best moment, a goodbye gift, and what his next job be. But it's time, ladies and gentlemen, to speak to a man I've been speaking to for the last 5 weeks, Max Scott, TalkSport reporter. Before that, the sister station of this radio station. Obviously, everybody depressed about last night. It was amazing coverage again. This is how TalkSport covered last night's game. Have a listen.
Brace yourself now for the latest sequel. It is tight and tense. It's out for Morgan Rogers. 2-away man in the middle. Oh, it's in! Swept into the bottom left-hand corner by Anthony Gordon. Keep composure, keep a cool head. Permission granted to start believing. Sets it up for Fernandes again in space. And there's the equaliser. They're just playing the penalty for just shrinking back into that defensive unit. I think Tuchel's got this tactically totally wrong. Back in from Messi. And headed in by Lautaro Martinez. That ends England's latest World Cup adventure. And the long, interminable wait just goes on.
Gotta say, TalkSport's coverage has been awesome. Max, you look how I feel.
Yeah, thanks, but I don't blame you for saying it. It's terrible and a self-destruction of epic proportions, and I think most notably from Thomas Tuchel, who, for some strange reason, having come into the England job and criticised Gareth Southgate's England for looking too more afraid of being knocked out of the tournament than excited about winning it, his side are guilty of that. Because he brought on 3 defenders and decided to give Lionel Messi the keys to Atlanta by just sitting back in our box. I mean, who'd have thought that scoring a goal against the world champions in the semi-final of the World Cup would be the catalyst for things to go horribly wrong? We were in total control of that game. It wasn't pretty, but we had Argentina exactly where we wanted them. Our midfield was overrunning theirs. We were keeping Messi on lock. We were finding spaces.
Both of their centre-backs were on yellow cards.
Exactly.
Everything was good.
And you take off Anthony Gordon, the quickest player on the pitch, who scored the goal. I think it's absolutely unforgivable. And as it stands, the FA are saying that Thomas Tuchel retains their support. But I cannot envisage anything other than an absolute tidal wave of sentiment against Thomas Tuchel.
I'm not biased when I say this. It was on the BBC last night. It pains me to. I thought Wayne Rooney was awesome. I could never quite understand what he said, but I thought Rooney was awesome. And he immediately tore into Tuchel and said exactly what you've just said. If you take the lead, get another man up front and play the ball through. But we play. It was so. I took the bunting down at 2:20 this morning. I was so hacked off. I just, you know, and I don't want to hear we did well to get to that point, and I don't want to hear that rubbish about, oh, they held up a Falklands flag. I don't want to hear about... The fact of the matter is it was on a plate, and I said it earlier, I don't know what you think about the rugby. 20 years ago, we were more worried about losing than winning, so it was always tight. We'd lose 9-6 or win 6-3. Suddenly Woodward comes in and says, why don't we throw the ball wide and run at them, and suddenly we're world champions. It's exactly the same thing. And if I was with you on this. If I was Gareth Southgate this morning, I would be laughing into the mirror, because you are absolutely... And if that... And it's not just blaming a manager because we're out. If we were beaten by a better team, I would say...
Exactly.
We weren't beaten by a better team. We were tactically outmuscled, and he's supposed to be a supreme tactician.
In the last 11 World Cups, the team that scores first in the semi-final goes on to win. The two exceptions of that are England, both in 2018 and last night. The tactical approach that defined by fear is inexcusable.
You think Tuchel will go?
No, I don't. I think he'll have to be pushed. He won't resign. And the question is whether the FA have really got the backbone to change it. They're paying this man millions of pounds a year, £5 million a year, and he's come in to get us through these difficult games, through a semi-final and through a final.
First, I mean, they forgot about Mexico and Norway. First massive chance to beat the world champions, get to the world. Yeah. Tactically completely inept.
Argentina weren't better than us. That's what's so frustrating. If we'd have lost to a world champion that were dominant, you can accept that the better team won. The better team did not win the game. What happened was the team that had some cojones, that had some metal, that's some minerals. That's the team that won. And England retreated into themselves.
Yeah,
and it's a psychological thing. It's a tactical thing. And I'm infuriated this morning. I left the pub last night sad, speechless. But this morning, it's like stages of grief, Jez. I'm absolutely seething and beside myself. And the sole culprit of this is Thomas Tuchel. Don't let anybody tell you otherwise.
You're absolutely right. I know you're going to go. You're always on this show. We love him, Max. Thank you.
Pleasure.
I know you've got to go.
Thanks,
I want to say good morning, actually, to a former England footballer. Thank you, Max Scott, from the excellent talks about the coverage. Great. Say good morning to former Spurs player Paul Stewart. How are you, Paul?
Probably feeling like Max, really, Jezza. I've got to agree with everything that I've just heard him say. You know, you go 1-0 up and then you sit back inviting world-class players to come on to you, and one of them being the mercurial Messi. He's going to unlock you, and he showed that he did that, and we just went further and further back and sat and invited them onto us, and that for me was the most disappointing thing. I would have, gone for the throat.
Why? What is it then? Explain to me. You've played for England, right? It's easy. Armchair critics are great. This man's supposed to be this incredible tactician, right? On £5 million a year. This is what I said to my wife last night, right? We might as well have been back in England than we were that far back. So this fear, I'm going to win 1-0. It's worked against Mexico, yeah, but we had 10 men against Mexico, and it was all about heat, and they didn't have the energy. You're saying to the Argentines, you've got a quiet stadium, they're on the back foot, you take off, as Max said, your fastest player, Anthony Gordon, and you retreat behind the halfway line. It's a recipe for disaster. Thomas Tuchel, what I hate about the English, by the way, is when they go, oh, we were... No, let's have it straight. We're not finding a scapegoat. He failed miserably last night, didn't he?
Yeah, and when I looked in that game against Norway, Jez, I thought I was praying for them to score, because I watched the way that we played, and we were playing in front of them without sight of breaking them down. And the fact that Norway scored meant that we had to go out, we had to go for the throw, and we started going down the right and left wing and getting the crosses in for players like Harry Kane who need that. And
well, look at the goal last night. Morgan Rogers beat a player, crossed it in, a peach of a cross, straight into Gordon. Great finish. Bob's your uncle. Why not do that another 15 times?
That was the first time we went down. Yeah, exactly. I agree with you. And as you say, Anthony Gordon, with his pace, was the right man to be able to do that. And like Max said, it is almost like a grieving process, isn't it? Because we don't deserve, we didn't do well. There's no point in saying all that. We got to the semi-final.
I hate that.
It's just painful every time. We're frightened of going into the lead. We're not good enough to sit back. We're not good enough to invite world-class players onto us. I'm sorry, it's not the way that England play. It's not our style of football. And this tactician side to Tuchel, I really don't understand.
Is he a goner in your mind, Paul?
Well, I would, yeah. But don't ask me. Pep, maybe. I'd have brought Pep in a long time ago.
Oh, my God, you've got me going this morning. Pep Guardiola. Oh, my God, that's genius, man.
And do you know what else, Jess? You
That's
know what
genius.
really annoyed me is, he stood there and would not sing the national anthem as well. I know there's been debates about it, but, do you know, for me, you're taking on the England job. You've got to show that you're part.
You know who I give the job to, don't you? If you can't get Pep.
So if we could prize Pep away from retirement, then he, for me, I'd be confident he would bring it home.
That's a really interesting one. I hadn't thought of that. Jurgen Klopp just about to become the Germany manager.
Yeah.
My other shout is Eddie Howe. I think Eddie Howe should be the England manager one day. But mate, listen, like the rest of us, pretty bloody depressing morning, mate. But
it is, pal, isn't it? Yeah.
And I have to do this and you have to do that. But the truth of the matter is, I don't want to talk about it too much because it's done and it hacks me off. Paul, bless your heart.
I won't talk about it again today, Jerry. Well, no, I've got another interview, but that'll be it. I won't be watching the third and fourth place because it'll be a killer. I'll probably watch the final, but not with any great interest, mate.
I'm going to watch the Open Championship now. I'm not interested in the World Cup anymore. Paul Stewart, you're a legend. Thank you, my friend. Good man. 7:35. Sarah Vine on the way. Brian, good morning.
Good morning, Jess. Brian here. I'd give two tea never here a year's membership to the Socialist Workers' Party. But then again, he's probably already got it. Cheers.
Here at Talk, we're giving you the chance to win a massive £26,000. The question is, what would you do with all that money?
I don't know. We've got a wedding. I would buy a camper van. Probably just like clothes, yeah.
Got on a big holiday.
Emigrate.
So if you fancy getting your hands on £26,000 tax-free, here's all the details you need to enter.
For your chance to win, visit talk.tv/win or text TALK to 83338 by 6 p.m. on the 20th of July 2026. Texts cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or send your name and number by post to Comp 1 PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP. To arrive by midnight on the 23rd of July 2026. 18 plus, UK residents only. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talk.tv/win.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back to some breaking news. Yesterday, Keir Starmer, of course, his tearful goodbye as 400 Labour MPs stood up and cheered, bought him a carriage clock, which was inside. The signature on it was, "We've stabbed you in the back, go and enjoy yourself." He, though, part of his farewell tour, is actually in Ukraine this morning. It's a farewell tour. What's he doing in Ukraine? Why is he there? Shouldn't he be moving out of Chequers? Or who moves his stuff out? What's the removal company? Morning, Phil.
Good morning, Jeremy and the team. What would I give Starmer as a leaving present? I'd buy him a red letter day for a migrant camp of his choice in France. Enjoy a spa and a lovely meal, and then he can have a boat trip to round it off. Regards, Phil.
Why go on and on about bloody football? England lost as usual. It's not some sort of victory, Peter. No, but that's how people are feeling. 22 minutes to 8 o'clock. I love this lady like you couldn't believe. I love her so much. Author and columnist from the Daily Mail, Sarah Vine, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm going to set a little challenge for you, which no other person that interviews you today will indeed challenge you with. And you're looking like you didn't stay up and watch the football, all knackered and hung up.
I watched the football. I did. I watched it. I didn't watch. I watched it because I thought I'd better watch it. I have to say I'm the mum football critic, and I thought they did really well and they tried really hard.
Yeah, let's not ask you. Yeah, I'm not asking you your opinion on football. They were crap. So, Sarah Vine, I'm going to play you my best Starmer moment, which will give you 30 seconds to work out what your best Starmer moment was. This is the Christmas tree one, but we've put it to Thunderbird's music, Sarah Vine. Have a watch.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Thunderbirds are go.
I love that, Sarah Vine, don't you?
That is absolute genius. Who did that?
Well, me. No, the team. What was it? Was it the sausages for you? Release the sausages? What was it?
It was, I have to be honest with you, it was the sausages. It was just so funny, wasn't it? It was just so funny. And also he has that terrible kind of weird, he always sounded to me like Bungle. Do you remember that children's TV show?
Yeah.
With Zippy and Bungle?
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello, Jeffrey.
He sounds exactly like Bungle. And it was just, the voice, I don't know why he has that. I mean, it's not his fault, but, you know. No. But, yeah, he did sound like a bungle, and that was a great bungle.
Now, you were at the centre when you were married to Michael Gove. Governments come and go, and Prime Ministers. Yesterday, the Cabinet, having knifed him in the shoulder blades, presented him with a carriage clock. I don't know what the inscription was. You were crap. What would your ideal goodbye gift for Starmer? We've had millions of people this morning, suggestions of invites to the breakfast clubs that he hadn't set up, all sorts of things. What would your ideal parting gift for Keir Starmer be?
I don't know. I was charged with buying Theresa May her leaving present, actually, when she left Cabinet. And I bought her a handbag from Liberty.
So when she lost the being Prime Minister, your job was to buy Theresa May her present?
Yeah, they had a whip round in the Cabinet, and then Michael said to me, my ex-husband said to me, would you mind sorting out the present? Here's the money.
I don't mean to be rude, but I've got to ask this, and you could tell me to sod off. 22 in the Cabinet. What was your budget? Was it 220 quid? Think of a tenner?
I think it was about 450 or something like that.
20 quid, yeah. But what do you think of it was 20 quid? Just buy her a bag. That'd be great. I love that.
So I went to Liberty and I bought her one of their nice bags. I have no idea if she liked it. I just thought, Liberty, it's an lovely English shop. If she doesn't like it, she can take it back and get something else.
I love that. And final question, where do you think Starmer goes from here, apart from Ukraine, on some farewell tour?
Well, I think part of this Ukraine thing is he just wants he's reminding everybody of his international credentials, because his fans, his supporters say he may not have been a very good Prime Minister, but he's very good on the international stage.
So looking for a job.
So yeah. I think possibly. I mean, there is some talk that Burnham might make it Foreign Secretary on that basis.
Sorry. Can we hold the front page? Did you just say what I thought you said? You mean I might be foreign? No. No.
Well, Foreign Secretary is a sort of, I don't know, it's one of the great offices of state, but it's not as great as it used to be. It's quite a good it's quite a good place to park someone.
Do you know I think he should? Do you know who I'd park there if I was Andy Burnham? Ed Miliband, absolutely 100%. That's what I would do.
Yeah, I really hope he doesn't make him Chancellor. I think Shabana Mahmood would be very much better at that, because she's on the right of the party. Which isn't saying much, but at least the markets won't have a sort of hissy fit.
So the two main stories over the last few weeks, obviously the continuing row over MP security after the horrific death of Anne Widdecombe. We started with the police in Somerset saying nothing to see. We now are at a point where counter-terrorism police are holding a man for up to 7 or 14 days. The fallout has been extraordinary. Nigel Farage was on this show yesterday, and overnight a man's been arrested for sending him a text saying, "I'm going to shoot you in the head if you win." You were the wife of a leading politician in this country, Michael Gove, and I guess you've seen it. And what's your take on this? Why would anybody do the job anymore, sir?
It's very tough, isn't it? I mean, it affected me very deeply because the man who killed David Amos, his first target was actually Michael, and he had. When they got his phone and all of his computer and everything, they found that he had basically been stalking Michael outside our house, and he'd done a sort of notes thing on his phone entitled Plans, in which he'd written how he was going to kill Michael. He was going to either ambush him on his morning run or make a sort of commotion in the street so that he would come out and then he would get him then. And I have to say that that kind of finished me off, actually. I found that very difficult because then, of course, and also you feel around the same time we had other problems. So Michael didn't just have that sort of lone wolf problem. He was also being targeted by people in Northern Ireland. Someone had written our address on a wall in Belfast, and they sent threatening. You know, it was just awful. I mean, the security people come around to your house and they put in an alarm and a panic button and all of that kind of stuff. But when, Anne Widdecombe had quite good security in her house, actually. But I mean, if someone's going to come in and get you, they're going to come in and get you. And it's very difficult, unless you have close protection, which is people following you around, you can never really feel safe. And it's about not feeling safe. I have some sympathy for Farage because one of the news channels went after his daughter at her house. And I think that is a boundary that shouldn't be crossed because it's not fair to expose, the family and the children. It's not there.
Well, I was quite surprised is the wrong word. I've known Nigel a long time, as you know, and we did the interview yesterday, and he intimated that there was strong pressure from his family to consider what he does, and I'm guessing from what you...
Well, I had so many of these conversations with Michael, which was that I basically had decided that I couldn't do it anymore. The game wasn't worth the candle, and it was causing huge amounts of... I mean, I was sort of having a nervous breakdown, genuinely. I was completely doolally as a result, and the children were really suffering, and I was just like, you can't keep doing this. It's just not okay to keep doing this. And people are, the environment in which politicians have to operate today is so toxic. I mean, it's always been difficult. I mean, MPs have been killed many times, think of the IRA, think of all of those things. But I think there's something particularly toxic about it now in the context of social media, because, you just get bombarded with, and it only takes, I remember the security man from the House of Parliament saying to me, it only takes one nutter, and that's it. And
did you, I'm not asking this person, I mean, I am, but it's not about your personality. You would understand then, because you're in a position where families, wives, partners, children would be saying to their high-profile husbands or wives in politics, this is not worth it, it's not fair, it's not right.
I mean, this is why so many political marriages struggle, because, the person who bears, who has to support the family and everything is the spouse. And even if you're prime minister, I remember when David Cameron was prime minister and I was very good friends with Samantha, his wife, she got no protection unless she was with him. So if she went to the shops with the kids, there was no protection at all, nothing, not even a driver. And it was just, it was only when she was with him that she was protected, and she was the wife of the prime minister.
Is Zia Youssef right yesterday when he says that he unveiled a £100 million plan to protect politicians round the clock? Are we at that point, do you think?
I mean, I think we live in a world where politics is so polarised, it has become much more dangerous in the sense that people, there is a sense, and we saw this when poor Anne was killed, there is a sense with some people in certain, certain political views, that if you don't agree with them, it's not just a disagreement, you deserve to die. And that's how people feel. And you see it all the time with the sort of pro-Palestinian lobby. You see it with the trans lobby. They are so intolerant, weirdly, because they claim to be so tolerant, but they're so intolerant of any view that's not there.
I think that is such an interesting point. I said this several times yesterday, and people were like, really? All we've heard from this government is far right, far right, far right. And I have absolutely no time for the far right. But the left, so many of those activists on the left who, as you purport, they say, we're hashtag be kind, hashtag... No, actually, it's vile. It's vile, and it's dangerously vile.
And there's an awful narrative out there, which is that if something bad happens to you as a politician and you're on the right, then you sort of deserve it. And if something bad happens to you and you're a politician on the left, then you're a sort of martyr and a victim. And that is just total nonsense. And but going back to what Zia Youssef was saying, I mean, I think that all MPs should automatically have security installed in their homes, but also people shouldn't put people's addresses on the internet. The thing is, it's not okay for people to be able to turn up at your home or your children's home and start screaming at you. There have to be some boundaries. There really do have to be some boundaries. And all of these sort of organisations, like, they work for you, and, there's people on the internet who kind of spot MPs and photograph them and put it on Twitter or whatever it is. No, that's not okay, And I was outside Parliament the other day. It's a very hostile environment. Yeah. If you're a well-known MP and you're walking past that lunatic with his Brexit sort of thing that he plays loud music and sings obnoxious songs, he's going to have a go. That does. I mean, if you think about that happening to you every day, 5 or 6 times a day, then it happens. It gets you in the end. In the end, it does get you. Well, it got me anyway.
So honest. Love having you on. Thank you. And we're going to speak actually to Brendan Cox next, who's the husband of Jo Cox, who obviously was tragically murdered in 2016. Sarah Vine, for now, thank you so much. Columnist, Daily Mail columnist, brilliant author as well. 0344 499 1000. As I said, Brendan Cox, the husband of Jo Cox, tragically murdered in 2016, and the co-founder of Survivors Against Terror and co-founder of the Together Coalition. I'm delighted to welcome you, Brendan. Good morning.
Good morning.
I was thinking about this last night. I don't know what I would ever say to somebody like you that has been through this, but I guess when the horror unfolded last week with Anne Widdecombe and it became apparent that it wasn't a burglary gone wrong and there's more to this, I guess for people that have been in your position, it brings it all back.
Yeah, I think the whole nation went through a horrific period. That sort of sense first that, just I guess, of sadness that an old lady had died, and then a realisation, I guess, a shock that she had been murdered, and then later a realisation of the horror that, in fact, this might be a targeted killing. Now, obviously, the legal proceedings are ongoing, so we can't get into lots of speculation. But
Absolutely.
I think what we know is that this isn't something happening out of the blue. There is a much wider security problem. Sarah was talking about it there. It's something that I think since Jo's killing has become more common. I think the violence, the intimidation across the extremes of politics, I entirely agree that it comes from different sectors in politics, but we all need to have a much more consistent approach, which is no matter where that intimidation, where that violence comes from, it is unacceptable. I don't care if it is targeted at a Labour MP, a Gaza independent, a Reform MP. In all cases, political violence should be condemned by all of us equally.
I couldn't agree more. I mean, and I think you're right when you say it should be across the board. I know that obviously Farage was quite outspoken about it at the beginning when he said, I think there's more to this. He was proven right. All Reform MPs have security. It was a plan yesterday announced by Zia Youssef. I'd like your opinion on this. Sarah said she thought, yes, this will happen. All MPs under this plan would actually get, quite rightly, in my opinion, security. It doesn't say an awful lot about where we're at with our politics, but I think it's something that sadly is going to become important, because at which point, Brendan, would anybody want to take up the mantle of being a Member of Parliament if you and your family are terrified the whole time?
I think that is exactly right. But I think two things are true. So I think, firstly, it's undoubtedly true that security for members of parliament needs to be improved. That will mean increasing it. It will mean getting better intelligence, making sure that those who are at most threat are best protected. But the other thing, which is also true, is that no amount of security is going to be able to respond to the scale of this threat. We have to address the nature of the threat, the culture of politics, the culture online in particular, where death threats are rained down. I think having hundreds of death threats. That happens across politics. I was talking to Jess Phillips the other day. She gets them all the time. So this isn't a left-right issue. It is a issue about how do we make sure that we have a culture where we can have vigorous disagreement, where we can argue vociferously with each other, but that there is a common understanding that violence targeted at anybody, whether that is a particular community, whether that is a particular political persuasion, is completely off the table and completely unacceptable. The vast majority of people think that, but what's happening with the way that online media works is that a small minority of people who propagate violence, who say actually it's okay to be violent because you disagree with somebody, they're boosted in the algorithms, they're getting more and more of that sort of social feedback that actually this is an okay position. So it is becoming more common. And unless we address that, unless we address that culture, we can't build walls that are high enough or fences that are strong enough to protect all members of parliament. As we saw with Anne, again, we don't know the details, but as we saw with Anne, it's not just about sitting members of parliament. It's about former members of parliament. It's about people who might become a member of parliament. It's about campaigners. So we have to change the culture.
How did that culture come to be so prevalent in your mind, Brendan?
So I think the first thing on my list is not the only thing, but the first thing on my list is an online ecosystem that boosts the most extreme content. As long as we have that, the tech giants who are trying to keep you hooked by the most extreme content, as long as we are privileging and promoting the most extreme content, which generally has the most violent language, as long as we are doing that, the information ecosystem is going to make violence more likely. Because we know, I work on terrorism a lot of the time and trying to prevent terror attacks, whether that's from Islamists, from far right, from different sources. What we know is that if people think that violence is mainstream, is accepted by others, they are more likely to act on it. And that change in the information environment since about 2012, I think, has made political violence and intimidation much more likely.
Couldn't agree more. In terms of yourself, Survivors Against Terror and the co-founder of the Together Coalition, you'd be best placed more than anybody. How do you, and I'm sure it's sustained you, and I started this by saying about what happened to Anne would have brought it all back. How have you dealt with the last 10 years, if you don't mind me asking, my friend?
I mean, I think the public response at the beginning really helped. There was a huge sense of public support, of outrage, of a sense that we can't become this kind of country. I remember, I talked about it at the time, but when we were in the funeral cortege to bury Joe, people lined the street, threw flowers on the car. My son, who was 5 at the time, said, "I knew that people love mummy, but I didn't realise this many people did." And so that sense of public solidarity, it really matters. And I think in the aftermath of Anne's death as well, I hope her family, her loved ones, her friends felt that shared sense of outrage, because actually British people are great people, and the vast majority have no time for this kind of violence or intimidation. And so for me, that public sense has been the thing I think that's kept me going, that this isn't the kind of country we want to live in, that we don't want to live in a country like the US where we are so polarized. But again, unless we address some of the systemic issues, whether that is particular policy failures or whether that is the online ecosystem, unless we address some of that, we are going to slowly move in that direction, and none of us want that.
I'm going to read more about your Together Coalition Survivors Against Terror, because you speak complete and utter sense, and of course you do, because you were there. You lost your wife, the children lost their mother, but you've done something, and you're right. Okay, it's interesting. We are now in a divisive way, where the left says the right's divisive and the right says that, and that doesn't help anybody. Really good to have you on, Brendan, and I hope, listen, we'll find out more about what you do, but thank you so much for taking the time to come on. Brendan Cox, there, co-founder of Survivors Against Terror and the co-founder of the Together Coalition, husband, of course, of Joe Cox, the Labour MP murdered in 2016. This is Talk. The news at 8 is next.
breaking news that has just come in. TalkSport have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
The question my party is asking now is whether I am best placed to lead us into the next general election. I have heard the answer of my parliamentary party to that question, and I accept that answer with good grace. Every decision I've taken has been about putting the country I love first. That is why I will resign as leader of the Labour Party.
Well, you know what? In the end, he did do the right thing, and there were some achievements, and he's an honourable man, and he cared about public service. Guys, that's not what happened just now. In the last half an hour, Keir Starmer resigned, and he resigned because he was pushed. Most of his issues, most of the things which have damned him from, let's face it, within days, within weeks of him becoming Prime Minister back in July 2024, or of his own making. They were things he chose to do, cutting the winter fuel allowance, damning everybody who wanted to have a public inquiry on the grooming gangs as jumping onto the far-right bandwagon, the two-tier policing after the Southport riots. This man brought it on himself. He was not a good Prime Minister.
There was two things on that manifesto. One was a picture of Keir Starmer and the word change. Well, promise made and promise delivered in that sense. Let's be honest. But look, I mean, I don't really want to make light of it, but I am cheesed off, Julia, because what we promised in opposition was competence, and it's been anything but. I'm embarrassed. I'm really, truly, honestly, I am embarrassed because I did think we would be competent. We've not been.
I've no idea whether there'll be a contest or a coronation. But what I do know is the British public have simply had enough of political parties chopping and changing their leaders at will. We vote for somebody in a general election to be our Prime Minister. We expect them to serve their term. And barring ill health or exceptional circumstances, what is going on here, frankly, is reminiscent of a banana republic that has totally devalued the very process of general elections and democracy. We at Reform demand a general election.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Well, welcome along or welcome back. I don't know where to start. It's 3 minutes past 8. This is Jeremy Kyle on Talk, the home of common sense, and of course, the home of you, the alarm clock Brits. Last night was an unmitigated disaster. I've just walked down the corridor to go to the toilet, because that's what happens when you're 60, if you can get there in time. And I walked past our sister station, TalkSport, whose coverage of the Football World Cup has been extraordinary. And Gabby Agbonlahor, amazing striker in the old days for Aston Villa and a good mate of mine, is absolutely seething and says, I hope you are ripping into Tuchel this morning. If you are waking up, I'm not interested in, oh, we did well to get there, or the Argentinians waved a flag. If a man who, by the way, I've just heard is on £8 million a year, not 5, that was told to me by Gabby on TalkSport. If a man on £8 million a year thinks it's a good idea when you go 1-0 up to put your team so far back they might as well have been in bloody Margate, then for me, there are questions. And, of course, we had Paul Stewart on, ex-England footballer earlier, who said something I hadn't thought about. So we'll start a campaign. Pep Guardiola should be the next England manager. Klopp's gone to Germany, bit of part-time work. Can you imagine Guardiola in 4 years? I'll probably be dead, but anyway, there you are. I've dropped that in. 0344 499 1000. There is news, obviously. We're continuing to look at the story over the horrific death of ex-MP Anne Widdecombe. Police have that suspect in custody. Counter-terrorism police, and it's caused so many discussions about MPs' security. Rightly, Nigel Farage was on the show for nearly half an hour yesterday talking about that and how it's affected him. And overnight, just to put this into context, a suspect has been arrested for threatening to kill Mr Farage. He said, I'm a terrorist and I'm going to shoot you in the head if you win. That's what MPs are talking about. Zia Youssef from Reform yesterday suggesting a £100 million plan to protect politicians if Reform come to power. But Brendan Cox, I thought, put that so brilliantly before the news, the husband of murdered Joe Cox. He said, we have to get into our heads that it doesn't matter on what side of the political divide. You can have different opinions, but when it descends into this, where people... You heard Sarah Vine say she couldn't handle it when Michael Gove was getting death threats. It put pressure on the family, on the children, and Nigel intimated that earlier. And we'll speak in a minute to Sarah Pochin, the Reform's First Lady. What is it, 8:05? But we also have to pay, I'm not going to say homage or ridicule, but yesterday was a very sad day for some people, not for me. Keir Starmer, last appearance at Prime Minister's Question Time. He's in Ukraine this morning because Zelensky's the only one who seems to like him. He is no longer, or will no longer be, the Prime Minister on Monday. He won't get to... I think he's to blame for the World Cup, by the way, because he said he was going to go there, so at least that's a good thing. But very interesting. He still holds on to the fact that he left this country in better shape than he found it. Have a watch.
I picked up our party. I turned it round. I made a promise to rip anti-Semitism out of my party, and I did. I turned my party to face the country, and we won a landslide Labour general election. And after 2 years, we've stabilised the economy. We have invested heavily in our public services. We put better protections in for children, particularly on child poverty. We've strengthened our defence, and we've enhanced our international reputation. I'm proud to leave this country in a better shape than I found it.
Not sure about that, because this morning we found out, breaking news, the economy has grown by 0.1%. So it got me thinking, amongst all the misery and the sadness of the football and the tragedy of Anne, which we will obviously respectfully follow, there's three good things for us. So anybody coming on the next 2 hours, Sarah Pochin, I'm giving you due warning here. What was your best Starmer moment? This was mine, put to Thunderbird's music when he did the countdown to turning the Christmas tree on in Downing Street.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It worked.
Thunderbirds are go.
It might be that, which I think is brilliant. It might be the return of the sausages. It might be being thrown out the pub. We want to hear from you. 87222. What would your goodbye gift for Starmer be? The Cabinet, having stabbed him in the back, gave him a carriage clock. Lots of people here are saying a one-way ticket to nowhere. Or why don't we put him in a dinghy and send him to the Chagos Islands? And what would his next job be? Somebody else said a stripper in the Chippendales. I'll tell you who isn't impressed with Starmer, or Andy Burnham, or anything to do with Labour, is a man who, on a daily basis, provides the most compelling voice note ever. Morning, Rob.
Morning, Jez. We lost, so what? What don't kill you makes you stronger. There. As for Burnham, isn't he the mayor that's left Manchester in God knows how much debt, about 1.8 billion? I mean, if that's what he can do to a city, imagine what he can do to a country. The bloke's a buffoon. I mean, you're going on about Argentina, forget them, mate. We'll be worse than Venezuela or Cuba. You give this commie git a couple of years in charge like Starmer, and we'll all be sitting on the side of the road, tapping little tin bowls, waiting for some rich tourist to come past and drop us a sandwich in. We've screwed Labour, the gift that keeps on giving to the people that don't want to work, pay tax, or do anything positive to this country. And if that ain't bad enough, he'll probably end up giving the bloody Falklands to the Argentinians. I hate this government. They are a bunch of
I'm just going to make an announcement. I haven't checked this yet, but it is my mate. In the summer, when, there's not a lot going on, I'm going to get Angry Robin to review the papers one morning. We're going to send a car and bring him in. A very good morning to Sarah Pochin, the First Lady of Reform, Runcorn and Helsby. Good morning, sweetheart.
Good morning, Jeremy. Lovely to see you.
You're going to have to do it. Best Starmer moment?
Well, of course, for me, it has to be on week 5 of arriving in this job. I dropped a little grenade, didn't I, into PMQs, and I asked Starmer whether he'd ban the burqa. And I've never forgotten the look on his face.
Did he go nuts?
He was literally speechless, because the way we framed the question, and on a serious note, of course, I don't regret asking that question at all, because it was about public safety and the suppression of women, both subjects I talk about at length all the time, at every opportunity. But we framed the question so well that it wasn't until the last 3 words that he knew what I was going to ask. And he literally had nothing to say. He didn't answer the question, of course. He's never answered any question as far as I can make out. But that's got to be one of my, obviously, I'll always remember that moment.
What gift would you buy him? The Cabinet bought him a carriage clock.
Well, that's so boring. But then on the other hand, maybe that suits the man. I don't know.
And what about a next job? Do you think he'll head off? I mean, he's in Ukraine today, because any ever talked about Ukraine, nothing domestically. Do you think he'll get one of those international... Do you think he'll turn out to be one of those international high-point sort of European human rights lawyers?
Well, look, that's where his heart is, I think. What I would say is I did see a moment of compassion from him when he was very lovely to me, genuinely very lovely to me, over my mentioning of my mum and the adoption issue that I talked about. And it was a surreal moment 2 days ago. He actually ran after me as I left the chamber, and he called my name. And I turned around, and there was our Prime Minister, literally, right behind me, and he said, he just wanted to tell me how brave he thought I'd been. And so, look, I did see actually a lovely, compassionate side to him, but... and I accept that, and I wanted to mention it. But
no, and I'm glad you did, because I actually want to say that since he lost his job, the shackles have come off, and there's more about Starmer than I think we've seen. I think he was over-promoted. I don't think he was up to the job. I think he's probably just a human rights lawyer. But, it's very difficult when you do this job to think about what he's done to our servicemen and women, to WASPy women, to the pensioners, to the farming community. So, well, listen, he's gone. Burnham's on the way. Can we talk about that? 4 days' time, the next Prime Minister of this country, the manicured Mancunian, as we're now calling him, is going to get the biggest job in the land and absolutely no scrutiny. The Tory party the other day, Sarah, were trying to force a debate on having MPs recalled next Monday for 1 day so that the Prime Minister would come to the Commons and answer questions from our democratically elected MPs, which to me seems totally fair, because not only did they throw this out callously, I thought, but nobody will be able to find out anything about what this man thinks or does until the 1st of September. How does that happen?
That's not democracy. We have no idea what Andy Burnham is going to do about the 1 million young people aged between 16 and 24 that are now on benefits and out of work and never have worked. Let's face it. So Starmer says he's proud of how he's left the country. He's betrayed 1 million young people with no prospects at the moment of getting a job. Why? Because of his workers' rights bill, because of the national insurance contributions he's levied now on small businesses. So they have destroyed the market, the employment market for young people. What's Burnham going to do about that? And, by the way, Keir Starmer talked about how wonderfully he'd done on child poverty. Let me tell you, in Greater Manchester, 47% of children live in poverty. So what?
I thought he was the Messiah in Manchester. I thought he was the Messiah in Manchester.
Well, quite. That's not a great legacy, is it, from Andy Burnham being the king of the north and all of that nonsense? No, he isn't. He's actually achieved very little. And that is a great concern, because you're right, he's being given the keys to number 10. We have no idea what he's going to do about our dire energy situation.
Yep, absolutely.
Will he switch the taps on? Will he start drilling for gas? Of course he won't.
Well, actually, that's interesting, because I said the other day, and I think you probably would adhere to this. I mean, there are 4 things. If you were knocking on the door, and tell me if I'm wrong in Runcorn and Helsby, it would be stop the boats, it would be energy prices which are decimating people domestically and indeed businesses. So why the hell aren't you drilling when we've got a resource rather than letting Norway drill and them charging us money? That doesn't make any sense. You'd be looking at a welfare benefits bill that outstrips what the Exchequer gets back from people who pay tax. That doesn't make sense to anybody. And of course, they all jump up and down and go, well, what about all the yeah, not talking about the needy people, talking about the people that take the mickey and are gaming the system. And also, what an absolute stain on this country that we still do not have a full and robust, with I think, judicial powers at the end, a grooming gang inquiry. I think if Andy Burnham... In fact, I'll put this to you. What if Andy Burnham surprises Reform and Tories and SNP and Liberal and whatever that other... what's it, the Green Party, next Monday and announces that he's going to do one of those four things and that we're all wrong to assume that he won't, that he's got the Labour Party in his hand, he starts drilling, he cuts the welfare benefits bill, I don't know, stops the boats. What if he did one of those, Sarah Poaching? What would happen?
Well, look, I think the British people would be absolutely astonished if he did any of those, because we know that Andy Burnham is socialism on steroids. He's talking about reclaiming public land and building council houses on them. But we know, don't we, that his policy is that people will not be able to aspire to buy those houses. He will keep them as council houses. This man is all about suppressing wealth, aspiration, home ownership, all the things that this country needs in order to grow and prosper.
He's actually he's not getting rid of the idea of raising taxes, including the prospect of bringing in a wealth tax. And socialism, this is my opinion, by the way, socialism's really easy. If you've achieved, if you've got aspiration, if you built a business, lo and behold, if you manage to employ people and filter money, no, you're terrible. You shouldn't have that. Everybody should have the same. So we're going to tax you into oblivion so that you bugger off to another country and they get the benefits and the fruits of your labour. That is socialism, spending other people's money and taxing Middle England. That's exactly what will happen. You can dress Burnham up as we want, as the great saviour, but for me, who was it? James Price said you might get to a point where we wish that Keir Starmer was back.
Well, another thing that concerns me with Burnham and his socialist views is what about the unions? You know, what happens when the junior doctors or resident doctors, as we now call them, come back for more money? You know, what happens when the tube drivers once again down tools, you know, and say they want more than their 60, 70, 80,000 pounds that they earn every year? You know, the fact is that Burnham is going to be kowtowing to the unions. He's all about suppressing aspiration and wealth. And one of the key groups of people that concerns the most, probably because I have two boys in their mid-20s, is this group of young people. And look, I talk about, do you know what, Jeremy? It doesn't matter what area of our economy we talk about, but look at further education. In my constituency, I don't have a single further education college post-16. How do young people become upwardly socially mobile if there's no education? You know, what's Burnham's policy on
I'm a bit
education?
outspoken on this. I don't know if I don't know if you'd agree with this. I don't. Even my wife thinks I'm mad. I don't think that all kids should stay in education from 16. I've got a boy who's got a part-time job, wants to be a golfer. There's no way, in the name of God, that he should stay in education. I'm not having a go. We left school at 16 and got a job and worked our way up with endeavour and hard work. And whether it's apprenticeships, I think that's still an option. I don't know. Maybe I'm a bit old-fashioned. Sarah, the other story, and we haven't been able to speak since it happened. It was so horrific, the murder of Anne Widdecombe last Wednesday. And, of course, we've talked in detail on the show about, you know, the response of Devon and Cornwall police, who have been in special measures just until recently. Nothing to see here. We've debated that at depth, and then suddenly counter-terrorism are involved. To be very careful, because that 28-year-old is in custody and is continuing to be questioned. Nigel was piled on in when he said there's more to this. We had your boss on the show yesterday for half an hour talking about this whole security issue, admitting that he'd been offered some security by the government, but that it was wholly inadequate for a man who, I think yesterday's paper said, had nearly 600 death threats. And in fact, overnight, I haven't spoken to Nigel yesterday, but overnight, a man's been arrested for threatening to kill him. He described himself as a terrorist on social media and said, "I'm going to shoot you in the head if you win." Yesterday, Zia Youssef unveiled a £100 million plan to protect politicians if Reform are elected. Are you scared right now, Sarah Pochin?
Look, I am careful. I think scared. You wouldn't be doing this job if you were scared. If you were easily scared. But we are taking precautions and we are being sensible. And what happened to Anne? Did you know? I'm not even sure if it's still sunk in. But you know, and I have wonderful memories of Anne. She came and stayed with me. She made me practice my maiden speech on her, and she told me off because I had notes. And she said, "No, no, young lady. I mean, I'm not a young lady. No, no, young lady. We learn our speeches. You do not stand up in Parliament with notes." And I delivered my maiden speech without a note, and that's my lovely memories of Anne. But of course, we need to be careful. And the point that Zia made, which I thought was excellent, was that under a reform government, no matter what your party or what your views, you will get protection as a member of Parliament.
And I think he's absolutely right. And I mean, I don't know if you heard the interview. I was speaking to Jo Cox, the Labour MP who was murdered, her husband, just before the news at 8, Brendan Cox, who's worked on this. And he says it's very easy for this to become a debate about the left and the right, but everybody needs to be protected. We need to rid society. What's somebody writing on social media? I'm going to shoot you in the head. He also made a point which I think never gets talked about enough. We can talk about government, we can talk about parents, we can talk about individual responsibility. These big tech companies that are making billions and billions of pounds, they need to be far more robust to deal with some of the tripe that is on social media by a merry mile. The reason I said, are you scared? There's reports that all Reform MPs are getting 24-hour security at the moment. Is that impacting on your life, or does it make you feel safer?
Well, you know, look, I can't really comment on that. But what I would say, the point I want to make is actually I want to bring up the two-tier policing.
Yeah.
Because how is it that two of my constituents are what I call my own Lucy Connollys, if you like? They both did over 30 months, had a 30-month prison sentence for just liking remarks about when it was that awful tragedy in Southport.
Yes.
And yet you go online, Jeremy, and at the moment there is this vile organisation that are after anyone that speaks out about transgender issues, like myself. And you're not telling me that the police or the security services are not able to find out who is behind this organisation, who are issuing these death threats. The stuff online's telling the activists to approach people like me, to hit us with hammers until we agree with their point of view. How is that right? And yet other people went to prison for 30 months for far, far less. This is a group that is inciting violence against MPs like myself that speak out on transgender issues.
Does it
policing.
Does it make you want to? I'm being completely straight with you. We know each other. Nigel answered me this question yesterday, surprisingly for me. He said his family, for the first time, are casting major doubts on what he does because they're being dragged into this. And Sarah Vine said earlier on the show that Michael Gove was attacked, and in terms of, you know, people were pushing for him. Have your family said the same to you with the latest news?
Yes. If I'm honest, look, I'm doing this and I will never be silenced and I'll never stop because I so believe in what I'm doing. But the one thing that does upset me is when my family get involved. I hate my husband having to listen, for example, to the press conference that Zia gave yesterday and hear, you know, the sort of threat that I'm under. I don't share that with my family. Of course I don't. And I hate the thought of my children hearing that sort of stuff. And yeah, you know, my eldest son actually has said, Mum, you know, please stop. Why would you take the risk? But I'll never stop, and they know that. You know, I'm so committed to this movement, to reclaiming our country for all the people that have got all their hopes pinned on a reform government.
It's such a pleasure, and you know, I said to you the other week, you've always been so honest, and you're good. You're always good to come on talk, and we really appreciate it. Thank you, Sarah Pochin, the Reform MP for Runcorn and Helsby, 8:23. Let's cross to. Is it a sunny Westminster? I don't know what it is, but I do now know that this is Andrew Griffiths. I mistook him for somebody else on the tube 2 weeks ago. Shadow Business and Trade Secretary. Good morning, Andrew. How are you?
Good morning, Jeremy. Always good to speak to you.
And you, my friend. So there's lots I want to talk to you about. Were you in the Commons yesterday for this debacle of a removal of the Prime Minister? It's just extraordinary to us lay people that there's 400 Labour MPs waving things and cheering when they've just stabbed this man in the back. I mean, he had to go, but it wasn't even theatre. It was a bit embarrassing, wasn't it?
It was embarrassing. I don't like those moments personally. These are, I'm afraid, deadly serious issues. No one should be matey or waving their order papers at him, particularly when they've stabbed him in the back. And you know what? The worst thing is, they're not trying to get rid of him because he was trying to get rid of Chagos. They're not trying to get rid of him because he and Rachel Reeves were racking up national debt, spending taxpayers' money like Billy-O, and driving the economy into the ground. They want them to go further on all of those things. That is the big worry. We need a really serious government. These are serious times. We haven't got enough defence. We've seen today the economy is absolutely flatlining. It's just sitting there bleeding out. There's no growth happening at all. We've got to put pride back into our country, make our streets safer, all of those things.
Do you know what, Andrew?
And
I
none
think
of those,
that's...
it seems to me, are being helped by an endless reshuffle in Westminster.
I think you've put that so brilliantly, and I'm going to use that now. I have no shame at all about using it for the rest of the day, because you're right. The 400 that shafted Keir Starmer didn't want to drop the welfare benefits bill of £332 billion by even £5 billion. We can sit here and we can say, Andy Burnham, no scrutiny whatsoever. I mean, here's a question I put to Sarah Pochin. If you knocked on the doors in your constituency, I suspect stopping the boats, net zero, drilling, the welfare bloated bill, a national inquiry, all of those things will be on the lips of many. Is the fear of the Tory party that Andy Burnham, with the Parliamentary Labour Party in the cusp of his hand, might actually do one of those things, or is he going to be as hamstrung as even Keir Starmer had with the biggest post-war majority, Andrew?
Well, look, let's, I suppose on one level, as a patriot, let's travel optimistically.
Yeah.
And the Conservatives have laid out plans in all of those areas, stopping the boats, scrapping net zero, making it easier to hire people again so that we no longer have growing youth unemployment, funding properly the Defence Investment Plan, cutting welfare. So let's say if he just did one of those things, then our hearts would have a small cheer. But we do know Labour are the welfare party. The one thing that Labour governments always do is spend more of other people's money, your money, taxpayers' money, or your children's money by racking up borrowing. So, you know, a little bit of optimism, but you know, what we shouldn't be doing, and what is just about to happen, I'm talking to you on the very last day of the parliamentary term behind me. Conservatives said we should be sitting at least into next week, so we can hear from this shiny new Prime Minister that those 400 welfare MPs have put in. We could hear about what some of his plans are. We could hold his ministers to account. They're at it again this morning, Jeremy, spending £2.5 billion of taxpayers' money on the bottomless pit that is steel making in this country. I'm not against steel making. It's an important industry, as so many other industries that we need to reindustrialise are. But rather than just throw taxpayers' money at the problem, we should be getting to the heart of it, which is the ruinously high energy costs that Ed Miliband is saddling us with. And unless you get to grips with that real issue, you're never going to have structurally profitable steel making in this country.
And it's interesting listening to you, because I know you've been a successful businessman, and we've had this discussion repeatedly about that Labour front bench, who I don't think have any business nous whatsoever. Of course, you're absolutely right. I think that, you know, Burnham is, you know, so little does it say of the Parliamentary Labour Party, they had to bring him in. I was absolutely 1,000,000% behind the Tory party about this extension. I think it is almost deplorable to think that this man will accede to the highest job in the land on Monday and will not have to face my elected representatives, the people in this building's elected representatives, until the first week in September. Do you know what I think, Andrew? I think he's going to use that time to make whatever he's planning to do. I think we're looking at I think he's hidden away. I think they've extended this leadership contest. I think the whole thing has been, if you like, a ploy to get him in there and give him a few weeks to get sorted. But the British people, I can absolutely tell you, will not stomach that at all. I was very, you know this, we've talked, I was very critical about how long it took for Kemi to come out I'm no longer critical because I think she speaks a lot of sense on a daily basis. I think the Tories were 100% right to call this out, and I think it shows you that they're running scared, and he hasn't even started the job yet.
It is extraordinary. I mean, in some countries, this sort of thing would be called a coup. I mean, we call it a coronation, but there's going to be very little scrutiny. This is a government that's never wanted scrutiny. It's unconscionably changed the electoral system, changed the way people vote, changed who can vote, changed the times of elections. There's a very serious malaise in the heart of democracy, and a small number of us and the Conservatives are doing our best. Sometimes it sounds a bit geeky, you know, to be talking about important issues like freedom of speech, the role of Parliament, checks and balances, the rule of law. But these are the incredibly important thin line that protects all of our liberty and livelihoods and freedom. And Conservatives, particularly under the principled leadership of Kemi, we are not afraid to talk about any of those things. We're back, we're Conservatives, we're proud of our country, and we're making plans to fix it, not helped by the conduct of this terrible Labour government.
Final question for you, Andrew. Now you've got to go. Lots, quite rightly, in the wake of poor Anne Widdecombe's tragic murder, and we have to be very careful. It's now a counter-terrorism case, and that person, the 28-year-old, still waiting information, so no charges. So legally, we have to be very careful. A lot has been said about the personal security of MPs. Nigel Farage, who was on the show yesterday, talked. I mean, there was paper stories yesterday of nearly 600 death threats. A man overnight has been arrested after saying online to Nigel Farage, "I'm going to shoot you in the head if you win." I had Brendan Cox, the late Joe Cox's husband, on the show. Across the party, across the political landscape, everybody has been answering this question the same way. Two things to you. Do you think that all MPs should, as Zia Youssef said yesterday, get further protection? And does it personally, if you don't mind me asking you, does it put you off? Does it strengthen your resolve? Do your family get involved?
Look, it strengthens my resolve. You know, I'm lucky in the area that I represent, and touch wood, the sort of things that are said online and threats that are made. But look, nobody, and the same would be true of many other communities, the Jewish community, but also those that put themselves in harm's way in the emergency services. They will all tell you nobody wants to live their lives behind walls, behind bars, behind visible security. I don't like it. I've said before, when the mayor of London, you know, wanders around with his burly minders and gets out of his armoured Range Rover, that is not good. We have a 24/7 public transport network in London. You use it and I use it, and that's how it should be. So there's a wider issue about policing in our society. There's an issue about the sort of sanctions when we're letting people out of jail, the government's letting people out of jail after their sentences, not even going to jail for a short sentence. What sort of message does that send about people who think they can break the law or have a go? So it's a big old topic. It's broader than just how parliamentarians are protected. I'll give the Speaker a bit of credit, in fairness. Even in my 6 years here, Jeremy, there's been a lot more focus on members of Parliament security. You know, rightly so. Everybody should feel safe doing their job, but I want that for everyone in the UK. I want more police, I want tougher sanctions, tougher sentences, faster justice.
Andrew, it's great to have you on, my friend. Thank you. Really, really appreciate your time, as we always do on Talk Break. Because Andrew Griffiths, Shadow Business and Trade Secretary on Kemi Badenoch's front bench. 28 minutes to 9 o'clock. 0344 499 1000. Earlier on, amongst all the misery, Starmer's last day yesterday. "I've left the country in a better place." No, you haven't. We wanted on text 87222. What's your best Starmer moment? What would your goodbye gift for Starmer be? And what do you think Starmer's next job should be? Debbie's next. She's feeling flat. She seems to have missed the brief on best Starmer moments and got it a bit wrong. Have a listen, though.
Morning, Jezza. It's Debbie from Bedford. Rachel Reeves in petrol station. That was one that made me really, really laugh. And then especially when she done not very British. He was full-on British. Don't know where thinks she's from. And Starmer, yeah, the sausages. Will I miss them? No. Am I dreading? The new one? Yeah.
Great. Well, yeah, so Reeves was at the petrol station and then Starmer was talking about... Never mind. She said... Honestly, can I just tell you something, Debs? You've made me feel bloody brilliant today. Talk breakfast.
The number of young people claiming health benefits has doubled in the last 5 years. We have a real crisis here. I think much of it you can trace back to COVID and the whole furlough scheme. People got used to being at home. They don't understand what it's like to have a work ethic any longer. We really need to deal with the ticking time bomb of our youth, because within 10, 20 years, they're going to become the majority of our workforce. And if they're all skiving off like this, we're going to be an even bigger problem than we have now.
Yeah.
The UK on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 25 to 9, 0344 499 1000 for your phone calls, your text messages. Amongst all the misery, best Starmer moment, please. Goodbye gifts for Keir Starmer, or what should his next job be? Morning, Dan.
Morning, Jezzo. It's Dan from Kent. Leaving gifts for Keir Starmer. It's got to be a new sat-nav. The one he's got is totally at it. Whenever he's out and about with Lady Victoria Sponge Cake, he programs his route and it's forever recalculating, make a U-turn.
Lady Victoria Sponge Cake. I want to say now a very good morning to the Independent Review of Terrorism Legislation. Jonathan Hall, Casey. Jonathan, very good morning. Welcome to Talk Breakfast.
Morning. Hi.
I wanted to talk to you in as much detail as we can all understand, because you're the expert. We know, following the horrific murder of Anne Widdecombe, we know there's a suspect in custody. We know that there are no charges as yet. And obviously, in terms of reporting, we have to allow the police to get on. We've had all the arguments about how it's been done, whatever. I just want to ask you about the legal process, but more on that, the sort of investigation. So a counter-terrorism investigation right now would look like what, Jonathan?
So, you know, you've got lots of police forces in the UK. Well, the counter-terrorism network is a network bringing 6 units within the UK, and you have within these units across the UK, you've got a lot of sort of firepower, particularly getting access to devices. So the key thing with counter-terrorism these days is they go in, they carry out an arrest, they sweep up telephones, computers, whatever, and then they've got to get into those devices. Not necessarily very easy. They could be encrypted. So in practice, what you'll see behind the scenes is investigators and a lot of tech work trying to crack through and find, are there any indications as to why this particular targeted killing took place? So that's in practice what it looks like. They've got some tricks. Obviously, they've got some techniques and abilities to get into information which ordinary police forces don't. So they've got some extra firepower. And effectively, you bring them in either when you need their capabilities or, you know, as is the case now, when they are investigating a hardcore terrorism investigation. So legally what's happened is this individual is detained under special terrorism powers, okay? If you and I get arrested for a burglary, we go into a normal police cell, we can be held for up to 72 hours. This individual is held in what's called Section 41. He can be held for up to 14 days, subject, of course, to a judge deciding that that's okay and the police are acting reasonably.
And that's for them to have the time, counter-terrorist police, to carry out the investigations that you're talking about, whether it be tech or whatever.
Yeah.
Again, being very careful, because we understand this is an ongoing investigation. The difference between a local police force and then counter-terrorism. I mean, the first thing that sprung to my mind was the FBI taking over in America, sweeping and taking over. Who makes that decision? Does the chief constable of the local police go, this is out of our league, I need to call in the big boys? Or how does that work, Jonathan?
No, there's someone called the Senior National Coordinator of Counter-Terrorism who reports to the top of the Met Police, where it's hosted, and they will make the call. So what will happen is, at some stage, someone within the network will say, I think we need to step in. And there's an agreement between them and the chief constable that if they say, we think we need to step in, and of course, bear in mind, they may have, not this particular case, but there may be other cases where they've got very secret intelligence, which they know about and the local chief constable won't do. When that happens and they press the red light, then effectively they come in and take over. I mean, it's pretty collaborative. So I don't think you should see this as being sort of, big boys pushing out the local force.
Do the local force, so would Devon and Cornwall still be involved in this operation, or are they literally out the door the minute the counter-terrorism police take over?
Oh, well, they will have some information. And presumably some of their police officers were at the scene and they will be helping, describing what happened. The point is you put in all the resources, but right at the core of it, you've got these sort of stronger powers. And you've got this. So if you think about it, again, if you and I were to carry out a burglary, it's a burglary, right? It doesn't matter why we've done it. The thing for terrorism is you're looking for something extra, which is, are they doing it to pursue a political, religious, ideological, or racial cause? Now, actually proving that is not always that straightforward, particularly these days. Again, not this case, but in many cases these days, you might go online, you might find an Al-Qaeda manual, and some weird far-right stuff, and some stuff to do with the IRA. And working your way through all that is not necessarily straightforward.
Really interesting. And just to reiterate, that will all be taking place over an extended period, which is why there's silence. We heard from Lawrence Smith, the Assistant Commissioner for Counter-Terrorism the other day, very erudite and very, very calm. It does point, does it not, without being specific, to this being a very serious case?
Yeah, it's definitely a serious case. So there are two ways in which you can deal with suspected terrorism. You can just arrest someone under normal police powers, and sometimes they'll be bailed off. So those are for the less high-risk cases. For very serious cases, as I say, you've got this stronger power. I mean, there are cases. There was a case last year, I don't remember, there were 4 individuals who, in fact, we know had come over on small boats, who were accused of an ultra-serious plot, and after 13 days they were released. So, I mean, it's always possible, theoretically. Maybe this is a different case, but theoretically it's possible to investigate, and just come up against a blank wall. But yeah, I mean, the police are clearly taking this seriously. And, I mean, it's worth emphasising, isn't it? It's a really, really serious case.
Jonathan, I couldn't agree more. I could sit and talk to you forever, my friend, but The Breakfast Show is a breakfast show which is fast-paced. But we thank you so much indeed for your time. Independent reviewer of terrorism legislation, Jonathan Hall, KC, 18 minutes to 9. Isabel Oakeshott next on Talk Breakfast.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Now, welcome back. 8:45. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Jeremy Kyle on Talk. Breakfast the day after England get battered by the Argies and are out. As I said earlier, I've just been outside TalkSport on the way to the loo. Gabby Abongnall, they're all absolutely raging with Thomas Tuchel, and I guarantee that I would start a campaign. Pep Guardiola should be the next manager of England. Pep Guardiola. 0344 499 1000. Or Keir Starmer. Keir, come on, team. Because he's out of a job now, isn't he? We've had a bit of fun this morning. Best Starmer moment. Release the sausages. Get out of my pub. All that. Goodbye gifts for Starmer. He's given a carriage clock by the Cabinet. Thank you for nothing. We shafted you. Here's a clock. Next job for Keir Starmer. Somebody earlier said, could he be in the full Monty? That's dreadful. Jez, your Tory guest said he's a patriot. Funny form of patriotism. What the Tories did over 14 years. Destroyed our military and open borders, says Jules in Coventry. Graham Pickup. Really? I'm a member of Reform and I've been threatened in the street. I've had my property damaged. Police not interested. But that as is how we are. Belinda, this is frightening. I'm so sad at what has happened to Anne Widdecombe. I would like to comment on the way the Reform MPs are treated in the House of Commons. Starmer and Ed Davis launched into a verbal attack every opportunity. They're booed, jeered, shouted down, and Lindsay Hill does nothing to stop it. Do you remember the behaviour of the two MPs sat behind Nigel a few weeks ago? I do indeed. Respect for all political parties and all individual views needs to be heard, and that needs to start from the top. This disgusting behaviour and stop so a civilised debate can take place. Can I say something, actually? And I really, really agree with that text. I think it's very easy to demonise Reform because apparently, they're on the right. And no, the truth is that Reform is giving a voice to people who feel that we need change in this country, and millions of people agree with that. And you have to respect that view as much as you have to respect every other view. But what's happened is we've got to a point where if you dare to raise your head above the parapet, you are threatened, abused, all sorts of things. And, you know, it does become, for many people, a terrible, terrible thing to have to go through. We heard Nigel Farage say yesterday on this show, you know, for the first time in his career, his family, you know, have started to question what he does. We spoke to Richard Tice. Well, we saw Richard Tice yesterday on the Daily Tea, a great podcast, and he looked, you know, he's got great resolve, but he looked emotional. It can't be easy. We heard Isabel Oakeshott tell the story yesterday of a man seen loitering outside of our house. You know, you do then end up going, what Sarah Vine told us over when she was married to Michael Gove, when they found out that he was on a list that they'd been made available, that he'd been stalked, that this person had been out of his house. She said, I just said, I can't do this anymore. You know, the truth is, I've got kids. It's really, really hard. Is Isabel ready? 0344 499 1000. Isabel Oakeshott, a very good morning.
Hello, good morning. I'm very much ready. Always ready for you.
Good. Sorry, it's one of those mornings. Did you watch the football?
I did. Now, I have to say that after Argentina scored a second time in the last sort of few minutes, I just walked away. I couldn't bear it. I didn't want to see the tears. I just had to get out of there.
Was the Tice man with you?
No, sadly not. I think I don't know where he was watching it. I know he was watching it, but yeah, no, that was a family event. Me and the kids, we were gutted, of course, but sadly not very surprised.
Rather endemic, I suspect, of what the United Kingdom is now. We've got serious stuff to speak about, but we also have to do it slightly differently today, because otherwise I'm just going to go home and cry. Your best Starmer moment in the last 2 years as he tearfully exits number 10, Isabel Oakeshott. Can you put your finger on it?
I think it's not one that I actually saw, but just sort of is legendary ever since, and that is the Christmas tree light.
Well, now, you see, you would think we put this programme together. For you, I have put Thunderbirds to this. Have a watch. You'll love it. This is Keir Starmer.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Thunderbirds are go.
Doesn't that sum up what a miserable droning... You like that, didn't you, Oakeshott? You like that?
It's actually cheered me up. I don't really know why, because there's nothing particularly cheery about it. It's just so funny.
Goodbye gift for Starmer. They bought him a carriage clock. What would you buy him?
Did they really buy him a carriage clock?
Here she goes. Do you think it said time's up on it? Very good, Marky, very good. I get fed all these lines.
Unbelievable. I don't even know if you're serious. Have I missed this story?
The Cabinet bought him a carriage clock, bought by David Lammy after he'd done a whip round. That's what it said. It's like those duplicitous MPs yesterday all waving their order papers. You've just knifed him in the back.
I mean, to be fair, that is quite funny. It's obviously an ironic gift, not, you know, genuinely thinking that carriage clock is what anyone wants. And if it says time's up, it is kind of funny. I quite like that.
And what about a next job? He's in Ukraine today. Must be part of his farewell tour that lasts 6 hours. What can you imagine? Somebody said earlier, can you imagine him in the film The Full Monty, Isabel Oakeshott?
Oh my God, I used to love that film. I love that film. I'm not sure I want to imagine what you're talking about here. I mean, you have to be a certain age to really remember what fun that film was. I think it was in the 90s, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
And it was about these sort of out of work, blue collar workers. I can't remember what they'd all been made redundant. And then they managed to have a kind of reincarnation as a strip act, you know, like the Chippendales from the 90s.
Chippendales up north. So much to talk about. You might have heard me talking to Jonathan Hall, KC, about the counter-terrorism probe that's taking place. We have to be very careful. 28-year-old still in custody. What this did, and we talked about this yesterday, was has highlighted about security. I had Nigel on for half an hour yesterday, and he talked in great detail about everything. But what became apparent was that the impact of 600 death threats a year, 30 a week sometimes, had an impact on him and his family. We woke up this morning to discover that a man has been arrested by police overnight for threatening to kill Farage. The suspect, who described himself as a terrorist on social media, warned Mr Farage online, "I'm going to shoot you in the head if you win." Which puts into complete perspective what not only Reform MPs, but potentially anybody is brave enough to stand up and have a different opinion to what is the norm. Where do we go from here? Zia Youssef yesterday talking about a $100 million plan to protect politicians if Reform is elected. But as I said to you yesterday, one begins to wonder or think about how many people are beginning to question being involved in politics if it can end up as it did for poor Joe Cox, poor David Amess and poor Anne Widdecombe.
I mean, of course, these are utter horrors, but they are mercifully very few and far between. I think it takes a hell of a character to put yourself forward for whatever political party, for being a politician in this day and age. You know, with social media constantly barraging you with abuse, and then the very real threat of physical harm. I mean, I actually think Nigel, and there will be other politicians that don't go on about it either, does incredibly not to, you know, to carry this privately. And I had no idea, and I'm very well connected with the Reform's leadership. I had no idea that the scale of death threats was that. Yeah. I knew it was bad, but I didn't know numerically that is how much is being dealt with every week. And of course, all of these have to be sort of processed, don't they? They have to be passed on to authorities, have to be sifted through. Is this person for real? Are they not? How can you tell? You know, I mean, imagine carrying that around all the time. Well, I think
that's, and I'm not defending Nigel Farage, but I think that's probably why he cracked the other day when his daughter was doorstepped, because I can imagine too much. I think that's a great phrase. I mean, you know, yesterday it became apparent that he had indeed been offered. It only came out yesterday, but he had indeed been offered security by the government. But he quite rightly, in his right, said, "This isn't enough, a driver and a bodyguard. I sadly need to be surrounded 24 hours a day by 4 people for that very, very reason." And when you wake up to the news that somebody said, "I'm going to shoot you in the head," then absolutely we can understand where politics is going. And specifically, I guess, for parties like Reform that are daring to try and break the status quo, Isabel.
I think the impact on somebody of having that level of security around them all the time probably changes them a bit. You know, people have asked what's happening with Nigel, and, you know, he looks tired, or he's this or he's that. But I mean, imagine just living with that all the time. It's not a normal existence, and I don't think many people understand that. You know, for almost as long as I've known Nigel, he's had a load of security around him. You know, cast back to 2016, I was with Nigel in America, and then he was able to walk the streets a bit freely, actually, in the US. And probably it is a bit easier for him over there still. But basically, ever since Brexit, it's just been a nightmare.
And I think we have to. I think we have to give some credence to which I think we sometimes don't. I mean, I saw it. You don't laugh. I saw it the last 3 weeks with Keir Starmer. Right? I don't agree with anything that he did, but you could see really what this whole thing had done. And it does. I saw Richard. You're Richard on the Daily Tea. I spoke to Nigel Farage yesterday. I spoke to Sarah just then, who got a little bit emotional. It's hard, and of course you can say on the surface, this is what I believe in, I'm going to do it, but it does have a human impact. It's really interesting for me that, you know, all I ever hear from the left is, you know, from the left, it's all, you know, we should be kind and be... Well, let's consider the impact this has on our politicians, even if you disagree with what they say. I wanted to ask you briefly, the manicured Mancunian, although apparently I'm not allowed to call him a Mancunian because he's a Scouse, Andy Burnham, will on Monday become the most powerful man in the United Kingdom, and still we know absolutely nothing about what he's going to say, Isabel.
Isn't this so weird? Like, it's just so weird. We've got this new Prime Minister. I thought I might do a little test on my teenagers yesterday. I actually haven't done it, but I might still do it. Saying, do you know who the Prime Minister is? And see whether they get, you know, one's leaving and new one's coming in. Can you imagine this kind of 10, 15 years ago, the sort of casualness with which we've got a new Prime Minister that half the country, I don't know, let's imagine if we went out on the streets today, I reckon a very significant proportion of the country will not be able to name the incoming Prime Minister. I mean, it's not going to be a majority of the country, but you'd be surprised. I reckon you might find 5 to 10% of people have absolutely no idea what's going on.
I think more. I think we end up, well, I hate the London bubble, but I think we all in this business, I'm not saying we live it and breathe it, but, you know, we follow the news on a daily basis as journalists. But I think your average person would go, what, somebody else? Bugger up the country, I'm paying more tax, I'm off to work. Do you know what I mean?
Completely. And as you say, it's weird that we don't know what his agenda is. You know, we just had that kind of speech very early on where he talked about, you know, reindustrializing the north and everything to be leveled up. Just boring stuff. I mean, come on, it was really, really boring, wasn't it? I know maybe if you live up north that was music to your ears, but I still don't actually think it probably was that music to your ears. Most people are thinking about much more simple things, you know, how much it costs to get the food shop in and how long they've got to wait to see a GP and this and that. He hasn't really spoken about any of those, what I would call everyday.
And I think he's gonna have to do more than words, because, you know, the last one's left. His legacy is only about Ukraine, nothing domestically. Isabel, I think you should come in and we should co-host the show. It's much easier for me if I get to talk to you the whole time. Thank you so much, sweetheart. Really appreciate your honesty yesterday. 0344 499 1000. Very quickly before I go to the news, can I speak? Jack Ross, a football reporter at The Sun. Brilliant on the bet this morning. It's another fine message. Jack, how are you?
Morning, Jeremy. I'm all right. How are you?
As hacked off as everybody else. If that's what you get for $8 million a year from a tactical genius, I want him out. I was speaking to Gabby Bonhall this morning. Everybody's just, I don't understand it. You're playing well. You're 1-0 up and you put them at the back. I cannot go with what happened to Tuchel. Pep Guardiola should be the next England manager.
I think they wouldn't mind trying a bit of that. At the moment, it sounds like they're giving Tuchel their full backing. I don't know if everyone in America is quite aware of the depth of feeling back here, how frustrated people are. I think the biggest thing is that, like you mentioned, he was brought in at great expense for these moments. Yeah. And Argentina, really, if you go back across his 18 months, nearly 2 years in charge, are the first proper team England have faced under Thomas Tuchel. What they did at the Azteca was great in the context and the circumstances, but the first elite team England have faced, they've got in a brilliant position and they've run away from them, really. The Tuchel's excuse that, it's not about the shape, it's not about going to a 5 or having that many defenders, is the mentality. Well, those changes, putting on that many defenders, impact the mentality.
It's not a mentality thing, it's the fact that we didn't get the ball forward. I'd have put Ivan Toney up with Kane to run his socks off. You take off the fastest player on the pitch, Anthony Gordon, ludicrous. Are you going to be watching the 3rd and 4th place playoff? I'm not.
No, I'll go and play golf or something.
Good man. Are you going to be watching? God, I love your honesty. Are you going to watch the final? I'm not. I'm going to watch the Open Championship.
I might have Argentina in a sweepstakes somewhere, so I might.
You horrible, nasty man. How dare you, Jack Rosser, you turncoat. Thank you, my friend. Sunsport, a great, great job on a daily basis. All you need to know about another England debacle. Almost 9. We're live across the UK. We start next hour with the Reform's London mayoral candidate, Layla Cunningham, on Talk Breakfast. We're back.
She's the best-looking world leader in my book, so I wouldn't fall out with her. I quite fancy Georgia. When she's not busy running the country, perhaps we could hook up.
Well, you do know she's single because her partner tried to have a threesome, and that got leaked to the media, and they had to get a divorce. So she's back on the market.
She's on the market, right?
Oh.
Yeah. Right, get me a ticket for
a threesome as well.
I'll get in trouble with my wife about this. Next question.
Broken.
Across the UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Thank you. Welcome back. 9:05. We're live across the United Kingdom. This is Jeremy Kyle on Talk Breakfast, the home, of course, of common sense and the home of you, the alarm clock Brit. In a tick, the Reform UK mayoral candidate for London, Layla Cunningham, who is more hacked off about the football than even I am. Why did I say it like that? Because she's a big football fan. She's not happy. What are we talking about this morning? Well, as ever, we will continue to seriously debate the outpouring of concerns and fears following the callous murder of Anne Widdecombe last Wednesday. The counter-terrorism police are still investigating. They have up to 14 days. There's obviously a lot more to this story, but because this man is still a suspect and there are no charges, we cannot and will not be able to talk about it too much. But what it has done, it's unfolding as a story about security, all politicians' security, especially those who are high profile. Yesterday we read that Nigel Farage had nearly 600 death threats. We talked to him on the show yesterday and he explained that you know, there's a tipping point, isn't there, when his daughter was doorstepped by the press. Maybe that was his tipping point. He admitted that his family, for the first time in 25 years being involved, has made him think a lot. We saw Richard Tice on the Daily Tea podcast looking not emotional, but concerned, as you would. His future wife, Isabel Oakeshott, was very honest about the story of a man loitering around her house in the country. And I think that all MPs across the board would agree. I mean, Nigel Farage, we discovered this morning, a man arrested overnight for threatening to kill him. He said on social media, "I'm going to shoot you in the head if you win." Yesterday, Zia Youssef unveiling a £100 million plan to protect politicians if reform is elected. 0344 499 1000. We'll talk about that with Layla Cunningham. We'll also talk about the football. Tuchel out, Tuchel out, Tuchel out. Pep Guardiola, please. And we'll also talk, because it's so dark at the moment, I mean, honest to God, we'll also pay homage to the man who yesterday did his final Prime Minister's Question Times, and still the deluded nasal knight, the son of a toolmaker, believes, and I quote, that he left the country in a better shape. Have a listen to this.
I picked up our party, I turned it round, I made a promise to rip anti-Semitism out of my party, and I did. I turned my party to face the country, and we won a landslide Labour general election. And after 2 years, we've stabilised the economy, we have invested heavily in our public services, we put better protections in for children, particularly on child poverty, we've strengthened our defence, and we've enhanced our international reputation. I'm proud to leave this country in a better shape than I found it.
Yeah, better shape. I don't think many of you agree. So we thought we'd have a bit of fun this morning. We'll say a very good morning to Layla. We'll speak seriously in a minute, but you're going to be put on the spot like everybody else. We'll talk football in a minute. But can you think of your best Keir Starmer moment in 2 years?
Sausages? Was that even in the 2 years?
Sausages? Yeah, you mean this one, the sausages. Have a listen.
I call again for an immediate ceasefire in Gaza, the return of the sausages, the hostages.
I've got a better one. Do you remember when he did the countdown to the Christmas tree lights in Downing Street? We've put it to Thunderbirds music. Have a watch. This is everybody wants to hear this. Genius. Have a watch.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Thunderbirds are go.
God, honestly. I mean, you can think about being thrown out of a pub, saying the sausages. Just extraordinary. What about a goodbye gift? Apparently he was given a carriage clock by the Cabinet. I don't know whether it said, you know, your time's up, which I think is genius. What would you buy, Keir Starmer?
I might buy him a dictionary. I don't think he understands what growth means, or, you know, a lot of the words he says. I left the country in a better place. Does he know what better means? He might need a dictionary.
And what about a next job? Somebody suggested a part in the Full Monty.
Maybe he can. I think it's time for Keir Starmer to chillax.
Good idea. No. If you'd like to put a question to Layla or speak to her, 0344 499 1000. You can text your questions 87222. Start your message with the word talk. Layla, let's get to it. The fallout after the appalling murder of Anne Widdecombe, and we have to be careful because it's now counter-terrorism police, has shone a light on certainly high-profile members of Parliament or people associated with certain parties. Reform, obviously, in the headlines because Anne was the Justice spokesperson. Nigel yesterday very candid about what it's done. What's it like for you in London? Have you been targeted and you're a mother, you're a wife, have you been targeted?
I don't know if it's a target. So my car, the wing mirrors were ripped off. It was parked right in front of my house, and there was a few scratches. I don't know if I should say this online, but someone...
You don't have to.
Yeah. Someone did something to my front door overnight after what happened to Anne Widdecombe. I don't know if that's related. They kind of tagged my front door, and honestly, I don't know. I get messages, just go kill your... It's about time you go kill yourself. Now that Anne's gone, I guess you're going to replace her, kind of thing. But I don't know if that's normal, Jeremy. I don't know if...
So take the politics out of it a minute.
Yeah.
We're mates. As a mum, as a woman, does that not make you go, sod this for a bunch, I'm not doing this?
No. It makes me be like, you know what? F you. I'm going to fight harder. You're not going to scare me. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm like, this is an attack on our country. It's an attack on our democracy. And we cannot have people, even just normal people, scared to speak. I mean, I remember when there was cancel culture. You know, you couldn't say that a woman's a woman and you were immediately cancelled. Things like that. And that, again, was an attack on our democracy, on our free speech. And we've got to fight that because, if anything, my parents came here from Egypt when it was a communist country and you couldn't say what you want. If anything, Britain is a beacon, should be a beacon of freedom and a beacon of freedom of thought. And like Anne said, no one should be protected from being offended. No one.
No, but I just think it's really interesting because I think we
and I'll say this: I worry more for my children.
Do they tell you not to do it anymore?
Yeah, my kids are very worried. Luckily, they're not here right now. But no, of course they are. My kids are always worried. Especially my older ones. They're always sending me messages. Mum, do you have security? Do you have this?
Am I allowed to ask you, as a result of this, are you one of the high-profile members of Reform that now has security?
I do have security, yeah.
What's that like? How does that impact on your life?
It's a bit weird. It's strange, but at least I feel, you know, I feel safe. And I'll say this. The way the Reform stepped in immediately and protected the people that work for it, and now they're like sending the message, it almost brings tears to my eyes because it was unwavering.
Actually, let's make the point, it's been paid for out of party funds.
Yeah.
I think the reason that I'm talking about this as a subject is I think there is unequivocal proof that certain politicians need to be protected, and I guess by the government. We spend enough money, by the way, I'll have the argument with anybody, on foreign overseas aid and supporting this, that and the other. I think if we want people to enter politics and public life and give their opinions, we're going to have to make sure, because it shouldn't be the norm. And the other thing that
but also, Jeremy, I accept, but it should not be the norm that people don't feel safe on the streets of London either.
No.
And that's what it is. It shouldn't be the norm that there's a rape reported every hour and women don't feel that the police investigate it, because that is the norm. It shouldn't be the norm that we have someone stabbed to death every weekend on our city and there's not one tweet from Shabana Mahmood, the Home Secretary, not one comment from Sadiq Khan, not a comment. There is literally multiple murders happening almost weekly in London and not a peep, no outrage, you know, and some of them are these, you know, young lads in balaclavas that people just treat like just a menace, right? And I've prosecuted these boys for knife crime, whatever. And when you prosecute, you watch body-worn video of the police arresting them. And initially you're like, yeah, get them, you know, they've carried a knife. Then you hear their voice and it cracks, and they're teenagers. They're so vulnerable. They're like my children. And they are the lost souls of London. They're forgotten, you know, and I didn't grow up with boys in balaclavas carrying knife crime and committing. There has been a breakdown. Something has shifted.
I have to say this to you because we do try and do it the right way, despite some criticism. Sadiq Khan would say that crime's coming down in London.
Absolutely not. It is not. Knife crime has gone up by over 60% since in the past decade. You know, and knife crime for me, carrying a knife, and when you prosecute these young boys, they say that they carry a knife for two reasons. And the most devastating one is for protection. What does that mean? That means, number one, they're going to use it. And number two, they don't trust the state to protect them.
I did a show for years. I did a lot on gangs in London, and you would have, you know, different sides of one road would be in a different postcode. There'd be postcode gangs that'd literally carry a knife because they wanted to be safe. I think, what does that say? Listen, that's a whole different debate.
No, it's a whole different debate.
But I do think it's really important, to somehow get the message to people. And I'll tell you why I say this.
Like, one of my messages, politicians are not special, right? If we suffer a risk, yes, we want to be protected, but there has been a massive government failure, not only to protect employees, but also to protect the public.
And I just, what I want to try and get across the board, actually, although at the moment, because of Anne's murder, it's going to be Reform MPs and high-profile figures that are being targeted. I hate the assumption that because you dare to question the uniparty, the establishment, to quote somebody I don't know, because you dare to not be from Labour or Tory, if you dare to be on the left further or the right further, whatever it is, that you are the divisional parties, you're the ones that deserve to be abused and your representative deserve death threats and it's okay. No, it's not okay. And one thing, and I don't care what this gets me, one thing I have seen in the response of all of this since last week is the left make me laugh. Hashtag be kind, I don't even know what hashtag means. Hashtag we should all this, hashtag that. Some of the vitriol, I mean, there was some of the stuff after Anne's death was utterly, utterly repugnant. The thing about Anne Widdecombe that people should get into their heads is that you could disagree with her from now to the end of time and you go and have a glass of wine with her. She was a conviction politician, the like of which we don't see much anymore, do we?
No, I mean, I fundamentally disagree with a lot of politicians. I would never... I would be crushed if something happened to them. Yeah. I would be devastated. If Sadiq Khan, I'm running against him, if something happened to him, I'd be crushed. You know, this is a man who, whatever I believe in him or not, he has put his, you know, life...
He's a family man and he's decided to do his job. We can disagree with how he does it.
Even if he's a human being, and we've lost that sense of
Completely
humanity.
Agree.
You know what I mean? It's a human being. And you know what I found shocking yesterday was at PMQs, while we're mourning the death of Anne Widdecombe, Kemi Badenoch decided to run a joke about we're going to have Andy Burnham, who hasn't faced any media scrutiny, any parliamentary scrutiny, and I think for the first time in history, perhaps, not a leadership contest.
Absolutely.
And she makes a joke that we need one televised debate this summer between Nigel and Count Bimface, and they all laughed. And I actually couldn't believe it. I'm like, number one, it's so distasteful. Right, really, that's how you want to end your PMQs, to make a joke, number one, of the electorate, of democracy. Whether you believe the by-election should have been called or not, it's irrelevant. It's been called, right? And
called.
But it's a chance for you to show the people of Clacton that you're going to fight for them if you really believe Nigel's such a bad MP, if you really believe Reform is such a bad party, if you believe our politics are so bad and we're going to be a disaster for this country. It is the one chance for the Conservative Party, who, by the way, in 2019 got over 30,000 votes, to prove their case and show the country, and they don't, and then they make fun of it.
I called this out. I tried and do it correctly. I called Badenoch out in her interview 2 weeks ago when all this kicked off. She said, "I will field a candidate in the next election, next by-election."
How does she know there's going to be one?
Precisely. So she's already assumed that Nigel Farage is going to be found good. Listen, I've got lots of questions. There's lots of people. Right. Do you, says Dave, think the public would be happy for their taxpayer money to be spent on all MP security, as Zia Youssef suggested yesterday?
I think in order to protect democracy, you don't just protect elections. You have to protect those that are willing to stand in them. And if people are too scared to speak or voice, you know, if people are too scared to... Everyone in this country has a view. And I think everyone's views it would be great if they could be represented in the political sphere. And if certain views are deemed to be beyond the pale, or... You know, like when the trans, you know, like when you got cancelled, I think you need to protect democracy. And I understand the public's like, well, hang on, why should they get all this protection and we don't get it on the streets? I understand that. And that's why you need both. There has been a lack of focus on public safety, and that means MPs, and that means the streets. And we've got to relook at public safety and make it the #1 priority of government.
Sue lives in London. She says Britain is broken and she fears London is the same. How would you change and try and bring the so many different parts of London back together again?
And that's a great question. And I've said before, what I've seen, I see London as a fractured city right now.
Yeah.
You know, certain political parties go to different communities and tell them, this country's oppressed you, this country is not supporting you. They go to the Muslim community and say this country is Islamophobic. This country that's given you everything is oppressing you, and only we've got your back, right? And they go to different communities and they tell them that.
But interesting, that's what Reform gets accused of. Divisive populist policies.
No. We have the most uniting message in that Great Britain is the best country in the world. We are so lucky to be here. And that is my message for London, that we are united as Londoners. We are united as representing the capital of the United Kingdom, and we should all be proud and united in doing that. And we're so lucky to live here. I'm not, you know, when I was young, I obviously come from an ethnic minority, whatever you call it. Nobody cared where I was from. Nobody cared what religion. Right now, I think people wear their religion or their ethnicity as a form of identity. You know, some use it as a form, you know, I'm a victim, or I deserve more than the other person just because, by virtue of the colour of my skin, by virtue of my religion, by virtue of where I grew up. That's wrong.
The thing that interests me about that debate is, and I've said this a lot, is that I've got so many friends, right, who have come to this country and made a success of this country, have embraced this country, learnt the language, built a business, made money, 100%. Invested. They are more appalled that young men can break into this country illegally with absolutely no security vetting and carry out whatever they carry, whether it's raiding the system, the financial benefit system, whether it's attacking young girls. It's just, there's got to be rules to be part of a country. And what enhances me is that we have allowed this stuff to happen. And the minute one has a voice, which I know is a common sense voice, which I know that millions of people agree with, you're vilified. Vilified.
I know. Believing in Britain and believing in the sovereignty of Britain it makes you divisive somehow.
Yeah.
How can that be divisive? It's the most uniting message, and you talk about that. That's my parents came here,
yeah.
You know, and forever grateful. And I think anyone who comes to this country and wants to be a victim, they'll never be successful. Anyone who sees themselves as a victim of this country won't be
I'm not
successful.
sure they come to see themselves as victims. I think they come because
they're
as
told
soft,
they're victims.
I think we're
They're
as
told
soft as
they're
whatever,
victims.
and that we wipe the backsides of the wrong people. I think for years and years and years we have given away. I don't care if it's an unpopular theory. If you are saying to people, thank you so much, Alarm Clock Britain, for working this morning, for doing your 12-hour shift and paying your tax. I know you can't afford a holiday or a meal out this weekend, but you keep paying your bills and you keep paying. Don't break the law, will you?
Yeah.
And then somebody comes in and they go, oh, listen, we know you haven't come from a war-torn country, but you're here. You've come through 7 quiet countries.
Yeah.
You left your wife and kids behind. Here's a credit card. Here's a flat. You just go and walk up and down the street and abuse people. That doesn't work in a civilised society. And every time I have this discussion with anybody on the left, they look at me as if I have landed from Mars to even suggest that we should look after our own first and foremost. But that's where we're at, Layla. That is exactly where we're at.
100%. You have to... Also, British people are the ones that vote in elections, and they vote for the government to serve them, and that's it. And that is the first duty of government, to serve those that elected them and to keep them safe.
You need to put your ear thing in. Oh, the call's gone. I was just about to go to the call and the man's disappeared. Has he? Oh, he's gone there. Steve, just the thing in your ear.
I have one.
Oh,
Do
you
I
have
need
one?
two?
So you can... No, you don't need to. You go on. You see, she's got one in her ear, Christian. What's it? She's only got one, like me. Steve's in Basingstoke. Steve, good morning.
Good morning, sir. How's your world?
Well, you know, I'm an England fan. You're through to Layla Cunningham.
Hi, Layla.
Hi.
Just a quick thanks for all you've done. Thanks for all the work you put in, the courage you've shown.
Oh, thank you.
Even at the bottom end of the scale as a local councillor, we got correspondence through from the local constabulary raising the issues of personal security, giving words of advice. It's really disappointing that we're in a country where we can't just talk to each other, disagree, try to find solutions, and people have to follow this path. But I think that irrespective of the rosette you wear as a politician, you know, fair play to you for standing up for what you believe in, and we have to do it. And if we don't do it, we give up, and we might as well all pack up and go home.
Yeah, we give up on the fundamentals of this country, right? Which is freedom. You know,
exactly,
and freedom in all its guises: freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom to offend. That's something worth fighting for.
It all feels to me one way. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. It feels to me as if activism has sort of trampled all over what I call common sense. There is not. I am more than happy. There's certain parts of the political right that I disagree fervently with, right? Who go too far. I'm not going to name him, I'm not interested. I'm not giving him any publicity. But I do think that it is not far right to look at what's going on in this country. Do you agree with that, Steve?
I absolutely agree. Look, I don't even think logically you can look at reform and put us in the box marked far right. And even if you do, have the courage of your convictions to engage in a fact-based, evidence-based conversation, rather than, as has happened, even back home where I stand, there's a particular group that I was part of, you get silenced because if you use logic and if you use rationality, it's a difficult one to argue if you're basing your life experience on feelings and not facts. Facts don't care about feelings. Facts are facts, and we have to deal with them. And if we have a greater understanding between councillors, between politicians, between mayors, between citizens, we can achieve far more. And within the council that we have in Basingstoke, there is some real positivity where people have taken off the rosettes, the election's over, and they're working together. And that is where we can be. And people have to buy into it, and the electors have to buy into it. And then we're held to account, and then we have next elections, and they choose us if we did any good.
I mean, you're right, Steve. You know, when I've defected from Conservatives to Reform in Westminster Council, the first full council I attended, you know what the motion was that they were debating? How to stop the rise of the far right in Westminster. And I had to sit there while they just debate how I am far right, right? And I think you're right, but that's what I had to sit through in Westminster Council. But you're right, because I do think fundamentally, whether you're Reform, Conservative, Labour, we all want the same thing. At the end of the day, it's basic needs. We want safe streets.
Let me read you both something. We'll go to a break. Jeremy, says Neil, my school taught us how to debate in a civilised way by making us argue for the opposite opinion to our own. Then you understand a little about where people are coming from and you can tolerate differences. These days, with social media echo chambers, people become convinced of only their stance and then empowered to force their agenda on with no breaks or checks. Coupled with the abundance of violence online and on the streets, is it any wonder that people without a filter crawl out of the woodwork? We need to re-establish boundaries, consequences if those boundaries are broken, manners, morals, decency, humility, before what I believe as my society completely falls apart. That is exactly how I see it. Yeah. Exactly. I don't care if you disagree with everything, and I disagree with you, but I've said this about the younger generation, I've said it about the left, and I'm not going to apologise. They will say, not only do I disagree with you, you're a homophobic, misogynistic, racist, whatever other language there is. You're not only just, we're not listening, we're going to cancel you, we're going to tread you into the ground, we're going to abuse you, we're going to threaten you. That's not how a civilised society works. 9:28, you want to speak, thank you so much, Steve. You want to speak to Layla Cunningham, 0344 499 1000. You want to text her a question, 87222. I'm just dealing with my 17-year-old who started his new job on Monday and has overslept on day 4. Brilliant. Back in 3.
I've thought about it hard, and I've decided today I will resign as a Member of Parliament for Clacton-on-Sea, thereby forcing a by-election.
Count Binface apparently is now 5-1. Brilliant. You know, so look, I mean, you know, if I were being flippant, I'd say Count Binface's campaign is now well and truly up and running, and Reform are struggling to put a lid on it.
Let me be absolutely clear. I have done nothing wrong. I have not broken the law.
UK. On DAB+. On YouTube. On your mobile. And on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back, 9:30. We're live across the UK on Talk, the home of common sense, the home of Alarm Clock Britain. Layla Cunningham, Reform's UK mayoral candidate for London, is here. If you want to ask her a question, 0344 499 1000. What, Angry Rob? Text to 87222. This is a voice note I got earlier. If you wanted something that it would encapsulate in my mind exactly what's going on with this country, this is it. Morning, Rob.
Morning, Jez. We lost. So what? What don't kill you makes you stronger. There. As for Burnham, isn't he the mayor that's left Manchester in God knows how much debt, about 1.8 billion? I mean, if that's what he can do to a city, imagine what he can do to a country. The bloke's a buffoon. I mean, you go on about Argentina, forget them, mate. We'll be worse than Venezuela or Cuba. You give this commie git a couple of years in charge like Starmer, and we'll all be sitting on the side of the road, tapping little tin bowls, waiting for some rich tourist to come past and drop us a sandwich in. We've screwed Labour, the gift that keeps on giving to the people that don't want to work pay tax or do anything positive to this country. And if that ain't bad enough, he'll probably end up giving the bloody Falklands to the Argentinians. I hate this government. They are a bunch of...
I mean, that's what people think.
Yeah.
He's not wrong, is he?
No.
In terms of London, this is quite interesting. Burnham, what do you make of what's happening with a man who, in all seriousness, it's the greatest coup ever? On Monday, will it become the most powerful man in the United Kingdom, and we know nothing about him?
Nothing. Well, I do know, actually, he did say that he opposes the third runway, whether you oppose it or not. But his reason for opposing the third runway in Heathrow is that he says, if money goes into Heathrow, it will take money out of Manchester. No, it won't. It's this fixed pie fallacy. You know, there's only a limited amount of resources and investment to go around, that if London gets it, Manchester won't. We don't need to manage, like, a certain amount of resources. We want an ever-increasing pie. We want money to go everywhere. And in fact, if London does well, Manchester should do well. But that's how they feel about people as well.
I'm not against, and I'll be very honest, I'm not against the spread of wealth and creation and all of that across the United Kingdom. And I want, for one, politically, I hate the bubble that is within the M25. You know, I spent 15 years living in Manchester. Amazing, right? But I'm not even bothered about the Manchester North analogy. I want to know what he's going to do about winters for old people. I want to know what he's going to do about putting more men and women, policemen and women, on the streets. I want to know what he's going to do with waspy women, the benefits bill, a grooming gang inquiry. Is he going to drill in the North Sea, a resource that we have? What is he going to do? That's what I want to know.
Who knows? No one knows, and that's the point. Does he even know?
I don't know. To me, it's a stitch-up. John Jezza, Layla Cunningham is the first person to observe something I noticed from yesterday's PMQs. Clearly, when Reform UK is hurting from the tragic loss of Anne Widdecombe, Kemi Badenoch makes a cheap jibe about Nigel Farage. Same old Tories. John in Wapping.
Yeah, I mean, I was quite shocked. I was like, really? Now's the time to do that? When you're going to have literally an anointed leader of the country with zero scrutiny? That's what you decide to do? I found it quite insulting also. We're all hurting, and she said it almost in the same breath as she spoke about how sad it was that Anne Widdecombe was killed, and that was the jibe.
I noticed something as well yesterday, actually, thinking about it. She didn't, when she was talking about Anne's political journey, she said she went from Church of England to Catholicism, and she said she went from the Tory party to the Brexit party.
I noticed that.
No mention
I
of
noticed
reform.
that as well. I noticed that as
Starmer,
well.
to his credit, talked reform.
Yeah, no, Starmer.
To his credit, let's be honest.
To his credit, and I was like, really, that's how you want to go out before the summer? You know?
Well, there's another debate, isn't it? How Andy Burnham cannot in any way face the elected representatives of us before the summer recess, which means he is going to be, right, Prime Minister for 6 weeks. Final thing, just from Mary, she says, can I have your reaction, please? Shabana Mahmood is tipped to be the next Chancellor, which is extraordinary. Who would Reform like to see as the next Home Secretary? Whereas, because most of the issues are seemingly domestic, and London, the area that you're running for, who do you think will make a good... I know who I think is going to be Home Secretary. I think Wes Streeting will be Home Secretary. I think that he will send, this is what I think, or Yvette, I think Mrs Balls, I think he's going to send Ed Miliband as the Foreign Secretary abroad and out the way.
Yeah, I think so too. Honestly, none of them inspire hope, because none of them are willing to do what it takes. They're not willing to take us out of the ECHR, disallow the Refugee Convention, you know, deport and detain illegal migrants. None of them are, and so my only hope is Zia Youssef being Home Secretary. And I say that because we're the only party that's talking about what needs to be done. You cannot have people enter our country illegally and not be detained and deported. Who are these people? We do not know. In fact, yeah.
And also, can I point something out that nobody ever says politically, because it's such common sense, you don't think you need to. If you are coming here illegally, it means that you don't have a legal reason to be here.
It means
so
you're a
if
criminal.
you come here illegally and you can't prove, why the bloody hell are we wiping your backside? It's beyond me. Call for you in London. Ian, you're through to Layla Cunningham.
Oh, good morning, Joe. Good morning, Layla.
Hi, Ian.
I was just asking about your bid to become London Mayor. I am a Reform Party member, but I won't be renewing it.
You won't be what, sorry?
You what?
I am a Reform Party member, but I don't plan to renew my membership.
Why?
But I have some doubts about some of the statements from the leadership.
We'll talk to Layla. Put it through.
Where are your doubts? Let's talk through them.
Okay, well, my doubts are the immediate jumping into bed with Israel and the States with the attack on Iran. I thought that was really, really unwise in the extreme. I really do.
But in what sense did we do that? I mean, listen, we have allies in the world, and the USA is... Sorry.
Well, if you negotiate with your enemies, you can turn them into allies. That's very New Testament. Bombing them, and the first target they actually hit was a rural school that killed all the kids.
That's not confirmed. I don't think...
I saw a journalist on YouTube go in there and see the wreckage and the bereaved parents and the graves. So please try to accept that.
I won't accept it because it hasn't been confirmed. And Ian, you don't negotiate with terrorists, just like you don't negotiate with hostages.
That's how we stopped 30 years of bloodshed in Northern Ireland.
You do not negotiate with Iran is not Northern Ireland. You do not negotiate with a country that wants death to the West.
We're obviously not going to agree, Lena.
No, we're not. But listen, politics.
That's the essence of politics.
Politics is like, I always say, politics is like a husband, right?
What? Lots of argument and no sex.
That's your marriage.
Sorry. Okay. Fair enough.
You'll never agree with everything, right? And that's...
So you're thinking of leaving...
But the USA, I'll just point this out, the USA has been our strongest ally. They rarely ask for anything back. And we didn't say to put grounds on the boots just to be boots on the ground. We said that we should have allowed them to use our bases from the very beginning. And Starmer did cave in after 2 days. And it was that moment of hesitation that really harmed our relationship with the USA. And we do not have the defence capability, the energy capability, even the economic capability to stand on our own 2 feet right now. And the allies that have always stood beside us, you know, France has tried to punish us for Brexit, Europe has, USA has always stood beside us, and we need them.
Ian, thank you for your call. 20 minutes to 10. Layla, so honest about the threat, the fear, the family, but the fight for you continues.
Oh, yeah. Of course, and the fight for all of reform. You know, we're stronger than ever. People who think there's division or anything, we are stronger than ever. Nigel's stronger than ever. We really do recognise that it is the political class, the establishment, whatever you want to call it, against the people. Because we know that we have the people on our side. We've topped the last over 300 polls. And you see it from the way they laugh about this by-election, the way, I mean, we were told, you know, you're not allowed to comment. People are actually saying that we're deflecting, using Anne's murder as a deflection. How? This is something that happened to our own people, you know? If we just talk about it, if we lay flowers, somehow that's deflecting. It's disgusting. It is absolutely disgusting.
Listen, the idea of this show has always been to give everybody a chance. We appreciate, as ever, your time. Layla Cunningham, Reform's UK mayoral candidate, 20 minutes to 10. I think the lady who's got the best name in the world is on her way. Not that Layla's not nice, but Annunciata Rees-Mogg is next on the Jeremy Kyle Breakfast Show. Back in 3.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Listen, 18 minutes to 10. Who's on this? Is it Mr. Dolan? Can you imagine Jeremy Kyle and Mark Dolan in the same studio? I look like a flower pot man compared to him. He's so tall. He's on from 10. Duncan Bark's done a great job for the last 3 days. Ian Collins from 1 o'clock. And Kevin O'Sullivan, he's like your favourite pair of socks. Here every day. Bit smelly. I'm joking. Don't text me. It was a joke. 0344 499 1000. Delighted to have our next guest. Had to move things around a little bit the last couple of weeks. Apologies for that. Head of comms at Popular Conservatism, Annunciata, Rees Mogg. How are we?
Very well. How are you, Jeremy?
Well, all right, but the football was crap, wasn't it? Did you watch? Yeah.
I watched most of it. I did a brief interview in the middle, so missed our only goal.
Oh, brilliant. Well done.
But I saw both the Argentinian ones.
Great.
Yeah.
I've banned people from talking about the fact they waved a flag. It's just typical Britain. It's just depressing. Now, we are going to talk about some serious stuff, OK? But we are also going to have a bit of fun, if that's all right with you, because it is so dark at the moment. We'll talk about security and MPs and bless her, the late, amazing Anne Widdecombe. But Keir Starmer yesterday, his final PMQs, it was very emotional. In fact, seeing so many 400 sad Labour MPs standing and cheering from the rooftops. I was thinking, sorry, I thought you just shafted him. I don't really understand that. His quote was, I left the country in a far better place than when I got here. What? She's shaking her head. What?
It's just not true. It's laughable if he didn't actually believe it. I think the poor man, and, you know, good luck to him in his next incarnation, no doubt off to some international job. But he's delusional. Have things got better in his time? No, they have not. And we all know it. We all feel it. Whether you want to look at employment, which is down, or unemployment, which is up, inflation, which is up, national debt, which is up, the migrant crisis, where he has clearly not smashed the gangs, legal migration's down a bit, but that's because of Rishi Sunak's plans. Everything is not better. An awful lot of things are a lot worse.
I know, and actually there was breaking news this morning. The economy grew by 0.1%. No, I mean, listen, there's much about the Tories at the end that I disagreed with and I felt let down with, but to have taken a majority the size that he did in Annunciata and to have been thrown out within 2 years says to me, and maybe he is all right underneath, maybe he loves his kids, it's just a bit boring and collected stamps and is a toolmaker's son, but essentially to me was not up to the job. And we are at a point in this country where several of the last prime ministers have not, as it turned out, been up to the job. We now look ahead. Well, I'm going to say look ahead. That's a slightly impressive way to describe it. We have Andy Burnham, a man who is, has been coronated, or will be, in what can only be described as the most effective political coup ever. He does not even have to, due to the way the Labour Party have done this, stand up in front of our elected representatives until the first week in September.
No, I think it's completely irresponsible and anti-democratic that the NEC timed it so that he would not have to face Parliament when he became Prime Minister. I think the Parliament should be held back on Monday,
completely,
at least, in order for him to face his fellow parliamentarians' questions. He's avoided press scrutiny. He's avoided public scrutiny. He's got no mandate at all, except for the people of Makerfield, which is one constituency out of 650.
24,927 votes mean that he enters... now, he might well be a successful Prime Minister, but if we strip it down, Annunciata, there are 4 things. We were talking about this the other day to lots of people about, I guess if you knocked on most doors in the United Kingdom, there would be 4 things that people would talk about. Stopping the boats, dealing with an energy price that kills consumers and business owners because of the refusal of this government to drill in the North Sea and cancel licences, and actually, on the other hand, actively promote a net zero policy that costs billions and is pointless. A need to attack absolutely a welfare benefits budget that now outstrips what the Chancellor gets from people who actually work. What message does that send? And a wide-ranging, with judicial powers, inquiry on the biggest stain in our society, which is the grooming gang inquiry. And yet, do we think do we think that Andy Burnham will do any of this? I don't. Not at all.
I don't, but also we just don't know, because he hasn't answered any questions. He hasn't given any indication of what his direction of travel is. He's talked about nationalisation. He's talked about moving number 10 up north. Well, the civil servants all say moving number 10 to Manchester is going to be a disaster.
But that's just window dressing, isn't it? I mean, that's pointless.
It's incredibly expensive vanity project. Moving the same people to a different location is not going to transform the really terrible state that the running of this country is in. And a lot of that is down to the civil service not working as it should. But just moving its location isn't solving the problem. It's just expensive. And because he likes Manchester, they will get some investment in a building. But it's not much more than that.
I also look with trepidation, I suppose, at a man who I believe is a pure socialist, and socialists are very good at spending other people's money. When you promise, even now, to do what he's promised, I mean, we're talking about a wealth tax. And again, that's a very easy message to the working classes, isn't it? Oh, all the rich people, we'll bloody well tax them. No. We're talking about middle England. We're talking about people with aspiration. We're not talking about multi-millionaires. We're talking about people who have worked hard, made a career, saved a little bit, maybe bought a house, take their kids on a holiday a year, go out for a couple of meals. Middle England will be screwed, as it always is by the Labour Party, because essentially at the end of the day, and I'm old enough to remember the last socialist government, they only have one thing, and that's raising taxes. And we already have the highest taxation we've ever had in, what, 75 years in Annunciata?
Yep, we do. And they love spending other people's money until it runs out. And historically, Labour's always run out of money because it doesn't work. And you hammer the middle classes because there's lots of them, and you take money off them, and it actually raises some. In the meantime, you raise very, very little money from the richest, but you send them abroad so that there's no money coming in from them at all.
So narrow-minded.
It is an absolute disaster of an idea. And we're now in this sort of limbo of who might be the next Chancellor of the Exchequer. And we've got these runners and riders. It looks, we hope, like Ed Miliband has been ruled out.
Yeah, but I've got a theory. I don't know what you think. You'd know more than me at your organisation, the Brilliant Popular Conservatism. I think he's going to neuter him and give him one of the most impressive and yet not meaningless, but I think he's going to make him Foreign Secretary, which means he's away. He seems that he's been promoted. He gets a grace and favour big house. He gets all the accolades, and that incompetent idiot would get to represent us in the world. I can see that. They're saying Mahmood will be Chancellor now. Wes Streeting as Home Secretary. I don't know, Yvette Cooper or Mrs Balls, as I call her, I don't know. But I think they might neuter Miliband.
I would hope they will neuter Miliband, not least because of the shameful episode where Keir Starmer kept saying, I can't do that, it's down to the Energy Secretary, as though we didn't have a cabinet system with a Prime Minister who actually gets to call the shots. Ed Miliband has got far too big for his boots and is dangerous to this country. And it's not just the North Sea, but it's also fracking. And as you said, it's the billions that we're spending on renewables that aren't reliable, and we still need the backup of gas and nuclear. That his entire policy has been really terrible for this country.
How long do you give?
The most expensive energy in the world.
Couldn't disagree with you, Nancy. I had a final question. How long do you give Burnham? I reckon the gloss will come massively off by Christmas. Genuinely, I believe.
Well, already we've seen he hasn't got the expected bounce, and I know he's not technically Prime Minister yet, but you would have expected it to start feeding through. He hasn't got the bounce from the World Cup, which I think they had really hoped for, because the feel-good factor, had we got into the final, had we won, would have been big, and he would have become Prime Minister the next day, and it would have no doubt rubbed off to some extent. He hasn't got either of those. his bounce so far is a lot smaller than Gordon Brown's was.
Oh, blimey. That's
And
not a big bounce then.
That had gone in within 6 months, despite the fact it was substantially larger.
Final question very quickly. Best Starmer moment. Mine is that when he went 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 for the Christmas tree. Was it the sausages for you? What was it?
Oh, the sausages was, I mean, it was a very serious subject and shouldn't have been funny, but by goodness, it was a brilliant slip of the tongue. And we're just never going to forget the toolmaker, are we?
You said it. So good to have you on. Thank you so much indeed. We'll look forward to having you on next week. And Ansiata Rees-Mogg on Talk Breakfast. Thank you. Good morning, Michelle.
Hi, Jeremy. I think the best moment by far was when Starmer was absolutely ridiculed by Trump. Trump was sitting there going on about the mass immigration, we've got to get rid of that, and the drilling for North Sea oil and all the rest of it. And he was just sitting there. I mean, it was just brilliant. He was really, really slating every single thing that Starmer does and Starmer stands for. I mean, I thought that was absolutely wonderful. Anyway, have a good day. And we can always wait for the women to bring it home.
Oh, that's what my daughter said. It's true. The Lionesses have made the boys' team look utterly, utterly rubbish. We've got that clip. This was Starmer being, well, kicked another one round the back by Trump. Have a watch.
Wind needs massive subsidy. And you are paying in Scotland and in UK and all over the place where they have massive subsidies to have these ugly monsters all over the place. They also kill all your birds. You know, they wipe out. You know, it's interesting. If you shoot a bald eagle in the United States, they put you in jail for 5 years. And yet windmills knock out hundreds of them. They don't do anything. You explained that. So it's a very expensive energy. It's a very ugly energy. And we won't allow it in the United States.
So we believe in a mix. And obviously oil and gas is going to be with us for a very long time. And that'll be part of the mix. But also wind, solar.
Here at Talk, we're giving you the chance to win a massive £26,000.
The question is, what would you do with all that money?
I don't know. We've got a wedding.
I would buy a camper van.
Probably just like clothes, yeah.
Go on a big holiday. Emigrate.
So if you fancy getting your hands on £26,000 tax-free, here's all the details you need to enter.
For your chance to win, visit talk.tv/win or text TALK to 8338 by 6 p.m. on the 20th of July 2026. Texts cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or send your name and number by post to Comp1 PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP. To arrive by midnight on the 23rd of July 2026. 18 plus, UK residents only. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 8338 now. This is a network promotion, full T's and C's at talk.tv/win.
We've got some breaking news that has just come in. TalkSport have announced a brand new partnership in a developing story. We hear they've created So Good Lager right in time for football's big summer. Just in, we're hearing that So Good Lager will be pouring pints across all O'Neill's pubs and some of the best sports pubs across the UK. With the big kickoff just around the corner, you can find out where to get your hands on a fresh pint of So Good Lager at talksport.com/lager.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. 3 minutes to 10. So Mark Dolan here from 10 o'clock. Ian Collins from 1 and Kev O'Sullivan from 4 on drive time. One final voice note. Wayne, good morning.
He's going home, he's going home, he's going, Starmer's going home. Everyone remembers freezing Nan and all those farmers' tears. Yes, we do. Unions cheered. We know they can't count down from 5 and all Mandelson lies. Don't forget Lord Alley's ties. And so many nicknames, 2 tier 3 gear never here. Starmer thinks he done well. He done 2 out of 4. Only 15 U-turns.
That sounded, and I appreciate this, very much like my first 2 marriages. They started well and ended rather miserably. Mark Dolan, good morning.
Good morning.
Unshaven, rushed in like you some said. What's going on?
Well, as I've basically thrown in the towel. We've got no leadership in this country.
No.
On the
unshaven, baggy-eyed look is because you watched the football, carried on drinking